Hey everybody, this is John at the top of the episode. I wanted to do a quick disclaimer before we get started. The views represented here are our views and our views alone. They do not represent that of our employers. To that end, please do not try and find our employers either. Thanks.
Hello, and welcome to SeedPod. I am the host today, Calvin, and I'm joined by AJ and John. John, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a forester from the Midwest.
And AJ, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm AJ. I'm a wildlife biologist from the Southeast.
Oh yeah, I guess I should say I'm also a forester. And today we have a guest. Guest, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Skvarla, and I am in central Pennsylvania.
Awesome. So today we have a special kind of just like a funky topic. Mike is going to talk to us today about vector-borne diseases and their influence on history, specifically in the Napoleonic Wars. So this is going to be real nerd hours.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right. But before we get into our fun topic of discussion, we have our segments. But before we get to our segments, we have to talk to our guest a little bit. Yay! So, Mike, we have some questions for our guests. So,
Okay.
As this is a podcast about nature, Mike, tell us your relationship to nature.
My relationship to nature.
It's a nice, easy question.
Yeah, not broad at all.
It's not. That's a difficult question. I'm an entomologist by training and trade. I'm professionally employed as an entomologist and do research in that field. I've loved insects since I was a child. And I distinctly remember the first time that it happened. I had to make a collection as a Cub Scout, and it was like January, February, and there was 6 inches of snow on the ground, and my dad said, "Why don't you make an insect collection?" And I looked at him like he had 3 heads. Where are we going to find insects this time of year? So he took me out, we peeled the bark off some fallen trees, and found a bunch of hibernating wasps and beetles and other insects, and made an insect collection, and I was hooked. And since that time, that's the first real memory too I have of like being out in the woods. And since that time, I've spent a lot of my life out in the forest. My PhD work was focused on how do you collect insects in the forest. Outside of professional work with insects, you know, I trapped when I was in high school and middle school. I still deer hunt. I did falconry for a while. That got difficult after I had kids because birds take up so much of your time. But what is my relationship to nature? I spend a lot of my time in it and enjoying it and just being out there, both professionally and personally.
Excellent. Excellent. I was introduced to forestry through Scouts, so it's fun. Okay, so now, Mike, our second easy question for you. When you think of the outdoors, what do you think of? When someone says nature, the outdoors, what's one place you think of? What gets you there?
I mean, I know it is my bias 100%, but I think of the woods. And specifically like mountain forests. You know, I grew up on kind of the edges of Appalachia outside of Pittsburgh. I'm in central Pennsylvania right now in, I don't know, the mid-Atlantic Appalachians.
The Alleghenies.
Yeah,
The Alleghenies.
Is this the Alleghenies right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's the Alleghenies.
Well,
The last ridge in the Alleghenies.
right. So I'm in the Appalachians right now. If we go over the ridge that my house is on, then we get into the Allegheny Plateau. I could throw a rock and hit it. But I like my PhD and master's work was down in the University of Arkansas, right in the middle of the Ozarks and the Boston Mountains. So I've spent a lot of my time in like low, old forested mountains, and I love it. I've still not been out in the Rockies, but like when you say, what is your thought of the outdoors? Like I know I could say fields or prairie or the rainforest, but I've spent much less time in those kind of places. So that's not what comes to mind.
So what is a place in the outdoors that's special to you?
Oh gosh.
Pick one. You got to pick one.
This is so hard.
Well, if it makes you feel better, we had a historian on recently.
Okay.
And then we mostly made fun of her because she was like, the outdoors, I don't go outside, I work inside.
Oh, gosh. I
She's
spend too
also in the
much
middle of
time
writing
outdoors.
her PhD right now. So
Yeah.
The
Oh, so
poor
she's
woman is just
frazzled.
writing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's
Sorry.
in writing hell.
And we had a good time. It was fun. We talked to her about the history of feral hogs.
Oh, cool. If I had to pick, I think I'd go, as much as I love the Appalachians, growing up and still living here, I really loved the Ozarks. I feel like they're understudied hugely in terms of biodiversity. I found so many undescribed species of arthropods there because just nobody has looked. They're so underworked and understudied, and they're absolutely gorgeous. The Buffalo River is one of the longest undammed stretches of rivers in the country. So if I had to pick, it would be the Ozarks in general and the Boston Mountains in particular. And if I had to really pick a site, it would be
That's what you do.
the Steel Creek Campground in the Boston Mountains.
Oh, excellent.
like it.
You know, I once went to a talk from an ichthyologist at Oklahoma State, and she was her stock in trade was mostly in bass and game fish, but her passion was in cave fish in that kind of area because it was so underexplored and underworked on. And she was telling us about this one population of fish that they had labeled as like nearly as endangered because they were only in this one little hole, and the hole went up to a wall, and the wall seemed to just be a solid wall. And then every time that you went to this site, there'd be one or two fish there. And then one time they went there, and there was like 40 fish. And she was like, the problem with studying cave fish is you just don't know anything about them because they're underground.
Yep.
So I think that you're completely right that whole area is understudied. There's a lot to learn there.
And it's just gorgeous country down there.
Yes.
I'm from Missouri originally, so I spent a lot of time in the Missouri chunk of the Ozarks.
Ah, cool.
Growing up, and yeah, that's like, to me, that is still my mental image of what the outdoors is, and I haven't lived there for like 20 years.
Well, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there, especially with those caves. But I also don't need to go into caves. I was like,
Nope.
that sounds like interesting work, but I don't need to go underground.
Yeah. No, hard pass. Don't do caves.
Okay. Now, one last question for you, Mike. Is it Arkansas or Arkansas?
Oh, gosh. Well, there's legislation saying it's Arkansas.
Oh, Arkansas is so much funner. It's so much
I didn't
fun.
know there was legislation about this, so this is all news to me.
Okay, excellent. So that's a little background on Mike and how he comes to us. But we're going to learn a lot more about Mike and his knowledge base in a little bit. Before then, it's segment time. Woo-woo, segments. Okay, so now we have our Forest Minute, where we talk about just kind of like a nice time that we had outdoors recently. So, John, go first with your Forest Minute.
So this one is a tough one for me right now because it's the middle of December, and it's basically shotgun season right now. So I'm actually indoors doing all of my prep work, end of year stuff. But I was able to get out for a little bit, and I had a meeting together with a bunch of folks to do like a collaborative restoration project on this little bit of neglected land that a local nature conservancy has. So the plan is to try and put together a whole bunch of volunteer groups and folks to just come out, get their hands dirty, but also learn about how to control invasive species, how to restore your backyard forest, because the part of Iowa I live in has like a lot of nooks and crannies that like you can't build a house on, but you just kind of leave it alone and hey, it's green, but that green is 99% invasive species or a really, really, just cedars that aren't particularly useful in that area. But anyways, yeah, to try and do something like that. So I've got high hopes for it, to try and get a whole bunch of people out there, and yeah, do some good. So I did, on a slightly more depressing note, I did find out that we all know that Iowa's rivers are filled with poo. We did our watershed coordinating group did a little bit of like a genetic sample of all the E. coli bacteria. in one of our local rivers, and it's actually all human and not cattle. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
that's
cool.
horrifying. Yeah. So
I was gonna blame previous star of the show, Hogs.
yeah,
But,
no, no,
Yeah.
no. That
You would think.
You would think, yeah. No, it turns out it's actually humans. So that means all of our sewer and septic systems are leaking in the town. So that's great.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can't fix that with field borders. You got to do a lot more infrastructure shit, and so that's gonna be a conversation with city council.
Okay,
Anyways.
awesome. AJ, your turn. What's your forest minute?
Well, last week we did another learn and burn. You know, I love my learn and burns, my little landowner trainings on prescribed fire. Did one over on the west part of the state where I pretty much never go because I'm 3 hours away from it. Had a good turnout, good crew. Yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun. It also like dumped 1.5 inches of rain the day before, and I was very worried. But the beauty of these sandy ass soils that we have down here, like it takes no time at all to dry out. And it actually burned very nicely. Yeah, so super fun. Next week I get to start helping train all the new seasonal burn crew. They're starting to trickle in. So that's my whole next week. But yeah.
And then burn season kicks off
And,
hardcore
I mean,
in January.
it basically never ends.
I was gonna
So
say
talk
we've been
about
doing this.
baby.
It's basically been a year-round thing. Like you've been doing stuff.
It's yeah,
almost the
it's- I
entire
mean,
time we've been doing this. Like I
pretty
know it's a
much.
weird.
Like it's it kind of slows to a trickle like June, July, August, you know, and after that. But yeah, it'll kick into pretty high gear come January.
Oh, John, I did have a question for you that I forgot.
Yeah.
So when you said shotgun season, I'm assuming shotgun deer season.
Yes,
Is it slugs, buckshot, or mix of the two?
I think it's a mix of the two. I don't actually know. I don't shoot, so
Okay.
I think it's a lot of
Come on,
buckshot.
man.
I
Man,
was
we-
gonna say, do
we
people
talk-
actually hunt with buckshot? Like,
I don't, dude. I don't. I
Why
don't know.
would you?
Sure, slugs then. I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't.
I don't know. You're allowed to do other things. In Pennsylvania, it's illegal to hunt with buckshot. You gotta use slugs, but.
yeah,
I would
mean,
be
that makes
surprised
sense.
if that wasn't a thing here. You can look it
No,
up
John,
if
we do.
need to.
We do need to take you to task for not getting out and chasing deer, because like that's kind of the job, buddy.
Oh! I chase deer. I go for runs all the time. I
Okay,
chase them
well-
in the gator too. Those motherfuckers are getting exercise. But
Okay, I don't want them exercised. I want them I
We
don't
want them
exercised.
we want them exercised to a permanent end.
yes, fair enough. Yeah, no.
Exercise like you would a demon. Excised. That's what I want. I want them excised.
We did
Gotta
learn we
grow
might need
trees.
to redo the like the designated safety zone for that WMA I was on last week though, because when I was setting up, I don't know if y'all have ever been shot not at but towards, but it's a distinctive sound.
Yep.
And that
Pop
guy was a
wing.
little too close, but he did get two. So I mean, you know, we'll forgive him a little bit.
I was shot around as part of an Amish drive. The Amish, they do these huge drives where they get like, so a deer drives, you get a bunch of people together and you just all walk through the woods, you just shoot it, you just kill deer. You jump them up and you shoot them. And the Amish love to do these really big drives. And I was at this game lands sitting on a deer trail and I kind of heard, I saw them setting up. I was like, oh, this is about to get bad. Because they came in two 15-passenger vans.
Oh, no.
And they like to just drive out like whole like game lands, just do these massive drives. And so I moved kind of below where they were going to drive, and them boys was just slinging lead. Holy cow! It was a lot of shooting, and I didn't think there were that many deer where we were.
Yeah,
I don't think
no.
it's even. I don't think you could legally do that here. I think we have, like, I think driving deer specifically is not legal. Like with the purpose of shooting them on state land.
It depending on how you do it, it can be unsafe. We did
sorry.
just have somebody get killed. An Amish guy got killed on a drive.
Yikes. Yeah, no. One of the properties I manage, like, yeah, that's how they get like this whole big chunk of property because it turns out they still don't have enough hunters, and I set the quotas not insanely high but very high because we have so many damn deer, and they just end up flushing it towards like 3 guys who just sit there and just gun them all down.
Speaking of deer drives, that is my Forest Minute. So my Forest Minute is a group of folks and I. We went out and we had a really fun time just driving this whole mountainside. And yeah, we didn't shoot anything. One guy gave a deer kind of a shave, and that was it. But we just walked this whole mountainside from like 8 to 2, and we had a lot of fun. It was, it's just nice to be out with the folks. Mike was there, and it was a good time. It was nice, setting up, just having a nice time walking around, being in the woods, being in communion with each other and nature, and trying to do the right things for the landscape. And then the deer didn't cooperate with that part. That we didn't do.
I feel like they rarely cooperate.
Yeah, no. I mean, we had people see deer. We just didn't put any on the ground. Which, I mean, only a third of hunters kill deer every year, so you can't expect to kill them every year. But I got another week. All right, Mike, what is your Forest Minute?
I guess it'll be the same deer drive that we were both on. I already got my buck this year in archery.
Whoa, you got more than your buck. Hold on. Let's speak truth.
I got a buck and 2 does. The second doe, I hit. I don't know how graphic to get. It was a liver shot, and I knew it based on the blood trail. So after I found the blood trail, I backed out of the woods and let her sit overnight. And when I found her in the morning, the coyotes had found her first. And so I left it because it was unedible. They destroyed the entire back half of it, which is fine. Like, the coyotes need to eat too, but I wanted her in my freezer and not their bellies.
Yeah.
And so I still got some doe tags left. But hunting this year, my daughter, who's 8, really wanted to try hunting. So I got her brother's BB gun earlier in the summer, and we fooled around with that a lot. She got pretty good with iron sights on a BB gun. I got her a 22. We started with that. She was getting pretty tight groupings with a 22 at, 50 feet. Took her squirrel huntings a couple times, and that went well. Shot a porcupine. And then she wanted to go deer hunting, so we borrowed a rifle, and I got mine, but she's got a deer tag now. And so I thought this drive would be a good place to maybe kick up some deer in front of her and get her a good shot. But like Calvin said, we didn't actually see any deer. Well, she got tired after walking a mile and a half.
Yep.
And so we left after the third drive.
As you do when you're 8.
Yeah,
It was
right?
also like 25, so.
It
I was
was
gonna
cold.
say, I'm not sure. Do you guys have snow on the ground too?
Yeah, and that honestly was a reason I wanted to go, because, it's the mountains here, and we could see the hillsides. So if you get in the right place, we could see a lot of land and potentially shoot at deer. But then she got tired and we left, and that's fine. I want to keep it fun for her at this point. And then they kicked up all the deer that they saw after we left, but so she didn't get a chance at anything. But she had a good time. We tromped around the woods, got to hang out with Dad for a little bit, and it was a lot of fun.
And no deer were harmed. Well, okay, one deer got harmed.
Yeah.
But it wasn't lethally harmed. Everybody walked away. Everyone had fun and walked away all right. Oh, I did almost forget. The other weird Forest Minute is I found a dead porcupine when I was out in the woods. And there's a grad student who is collecting bones for educational purposes. And so I gave the grad student this dead porcupine. They came to my house the other day. And I was like, yeah, I dropped the porcupine off at the snowbank. You can take it. I don't want this.
Okay.
Trying to help educate the youth, man.
Yeah. And also look like the world's weirdest drug deal, I guess.
I just put it. I picked it up during the day. I threw it in the behind by where the cars were parked, so it stayed cold. And then I drove it home at night. I just threw it in the driveway. I was like, yeah, here's where it's at. I sent them a picture of the porcupine just in a snowbank. I was like, you could get it whenever you want. I don't want this thing.
Just picturing this random porcupine embedded in a snowbank.
Well, it was sitting on top. It was only in the snowbank for maybe half an hour before the grad student got it. Okay, all right, so that was our Forest Minute. Now on to our second segment of the episode. Woo-woo! Second segment, Invasive of the Week. And in honor of Mike, I've decided to go with a vector-borne disease invasive. And so we're going to talk about the Asian longhorn tick. Haemophilus.
Oh, yeah.
Hemophysalis.
Yeah, thank you. Haemophilus.
Longicornis.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to get there. It was going to sound a lot worse.
Calvin, we finally have someone on that might actually care if we butcher Latin names.
Hey, look, my defense is Latin is a dead language, and you can pronounce it however you want. That's my defense.
Calvin didn't mention it, and I didn't mention it, so it's funny you bring that up, but I'm historically trained as a taxonomist and systematist, too, so you want to talk about the person that deals with or Latin names all the time, that's me.
Yeah, the one person that would care about our terrible Latin pronunciations.
So not to derail poor Calvin.
Please, go ahead.
But you'd think that, but I actually don't very much.
It's a dead language.
Yes, and it really was driven home when I was talking to some British colleagues and heard them pronounce the same Latin names. Mm-hmm. And it didn't, it was totally different.
I think they're two different languages now, like English, and American English.
Yeah.
Well, so I've heard a lot of European colleagues. So for pines, for example, the genus for pines is Pinaceae. Most Americans say Pinaceae because Pinus. But if you talk to a non-English speaking European, well, non-English is the first language, they're going to say penis.
Yeah.
So it's hey, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know. Mike, you muted yourself.
No, I'm just sounding it out, letting the word roll over my tongue with the different pronunciations, and I could see how they would do that.
Yeah, eyes are allowed to make different sounds in the English language because it's stupid. So, who cares? As long as you get close and you try.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the point of it. As long as everybody knows what we're talking about in the scientific name, that's why common names suck, because the same common name might apply to different things. But even with different pronunciations, the scientific name can only be one thing. And so, as long as you know, especially the spelling, whatever, you're talking about the same or different things.
Yeah, and especially if you're talking to someone who you guys barely share a common language, which you just write it down, and then everyone goes, yeah, we're talking about the same thing. All right, cool. Okay, so let's talk about the Asian longhorn tick. So the Asian longhorn tick. Anyone want to guess where it is native to?
Is it Asia?
It's Asia.
East Asia and Japan, as well as parts of Korea, and it looks like Kamchatka. So I bet that range map is a little underfilled in. Because the areas that it's native to are difficult to study from an entomological perspective. For example, North Korea, if we're looking at the range map, has some dots on there, but it's not super well filled in. But I'm guessing because it's in the area surrounding North Korea, it's probably in North Korea. Also, I'm guessing it's probably in lots of Siberia. However, Siberia, difficult to study. So
I think it's pretty big out there too, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty big out there. Pretty big out there.
Awesome.
So it is native to Eastern Asia and Japan. A fun discussion I was having with some folks is when you read a range map and it says native to China, does that count Taiwan? Or do we need to ask the species its perspective on the one China policy? In this case, we can say that the Lone Star tick includes Taiwan as part of China. So it is found in Taiwan.
Huh. Okay. I would just assume they mean mainland China. It's like if you say it's native to the U.S. but it's not in Hawaii. I don't think anybody's gonna
Yeah, but Hawaii is really far away, and Taiwan is far away, but not that far away from
also
mainland.
pretty far away.
Japan is also pretty far away from China. It shares a number of similar species, so that's hence the question. Okay, so it's native to East Asia. It is invasive in Australia and New Zealand, It got there as a result of agricultural products, and those would be largely sheep, and the movement of domestic livestock between mainland Asia and the Pacific Islands. Excuse me. It's also invasive in a couple other Pacific Islands. We're going to blow right past that. So it got to the United States in 2017. So this is a new invasive. Hence why Mike is all up on this, because it's not terribly often where you find. Well, I guess it actually is a lot more frequent than we'd like. Actually, that you find an invasive vector-borne disease becoming more and more of a problem. But that's a different topic for a different episode. We'll talk about. We already did that episode, right?
Which
one? The invasive episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was like their second one.
Oh yeah, okay. So it's becoming more and more common where we get these diseases and plants moving around and insects moving around through globalization and climate change, all that kind of fun stuff. So comes to North America in 2017 is when we have the first for sure identified. There were some reports from earlier. It came on livestock, and that would be sheep. It was found on an Icelandic sheep in New Jersey, actually. It's currently in the United States. It is found in 18 states. Most of them are in the eastern United States, on the eastern seaboard, ranging from Maine all the way down to Georgia, and then west to Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, a little bit in Michigan. So it's pretty scattered throughout. How is it achieving this range spread? We don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess it's just on livestock and moving around in livestock.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Mike, other thoughts on how it's moving around?
Oh, it's almost certainly entirely livestock. There's probably local spread on deer, because deer will move a ways, but the long distance jump state to state is almost certainly livestock.
We love livestock. We love domestication.
Boo.
Okay. So it's a really interesting insect. Oh, sorry, it's not an insect. It's an arachnid. It's a really interesting arachnid. So I actually, because it's an arachnid, this may be outside of Mike's expertise, as he's an entomologist.
Nah, it's well within. So there is a discussion to be had of what is entomology, because by the definition, it's just insects, but functionally, it's generally includes ticks and spiders and arachnids at the very least, myriapods like millipedes and centipedes, if you're being even more generous, creepy crawlies that have 6, 8, or more legs for the most part.
Terrestrial arthropods, basically.
Yeah, terrestrial arthropods. It gets funny when you get into the water because we still count aquatic insects and generally aquatic mites, but like terrestrial isopods, sow bugs and pill bugs sometimes fall within entomology, but aquatic isopods 100% do not. So yeah,
so
that
Mike,
divide is weird.
Finally answer, or you could give us one answer to the podcast old question: is shrimp bugs? Shrimp is bugs?
Shrimps is bugs.
Shrimps is bugs?
God. Phylogenetically, yeah, I guess.
Shrimps is bugs!
Shrimps is bugs. Shrimps is not wildlife. There we go.
That's it. We've heard it here.
We've solved it.
Also, canonically, Mike, this podcast does not consider insects or spiders to be wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Bugs is bugs.
Bugs is bugs.
Like, if a wildlife biologist also has to know about insects, like,
yeah.
you just go crazy.
Sure.
Forget it.
Okay,
Sure.
just go crazy. Like, you got to stop somewhere. So
I
this is
maintain
bugs.
that anything I don't know about is bugs.
Yeah. Yeah, them's bugs. Bugs is for entomologists. Like, that's why you have a job. If AJ has to know about bugs, then Mike doesn't have a job.
Sure.
Now, AJ is just on the ground crying because he knows way too much about the world around him. Just in a ball. No, stop! I can't take any more isopods.
His
too
brain
much.
is just throbbing.
There are too many legs.
Okay, so we're a very serious podcast. So this is a very interesting tick in that it can reproduce either sexually or through parthenogenesis,
God
which is
damn
where
it.
it's an asexual reproduction. So friend of the show, Hemlock Woolly Adelgid, also reproduces through parthenogenesis. And then red bay ambrosia beetle, it does parthenogenesis and then some sexual reproduction. We'll talk about both of those later. So this is an aneuploidal species, which is capable of both sexual and asexual reproduction, kind of depending both on where it is as well as some genetic factors. Super interesting.
Cool, I hate it.
Mike, can you tell us a little bit about that? It looks like this life cycle is crazy.
No, I actually don't know very much about it. Sorry.
Oh.
I just know that they can reproduce without mating, and that makes them really invasive, because if you don't need a mate, you just need one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's
I don't like
that's
that.
the story for red bay ambrosia beetle. We'll talk about that later. That's different. Invasive. Okay. It does look like I say looks like, looking at a couple of papers, there is a slight geographic separation depending, like, some of the populations prefer asexual reproduction to sexual reproduction, but they can do
us
both.
picking at details, and that's
Yeah. They can do both, so that's one great thing that makes them very invasive.
horrifying.
Really fun. Ticks is crazy.
Yeah,
I
I hate ticks so much. We've got one that we've got a whole group of studies going on here at a local university that's just studying ticks, and it's just like, what? Can't you just, like, they're important, I get it, but, like, also gross. Can you not do that?
Yep. We will do the deerked as a later invasive, but we've done some work on deerkeds, and those things are disgusting. They just look gross, and they move weird, and they're gross. At least ticks don't move that much.
That's all the reasons I like them.
Because they're
Hard
gross.
pass.
Yeah, they're flies, and they look like ticks, and how cool is that?
Well,
Gross.
they're flies until they lose. Okay, all right, hold on. Let's finish Asian longhorn tick, and then we can talk about cats. Okay, so the reason that we are concerned about Asian longhorn ticks is because they're a pretty good sized tick. They get up to about 3 millimeters long, or 1/8 of an inch long, when they are an unfed adult. As a fed adult, they can get up to about 10 millimeters long, which is pretty good size for a single arachnid. So they're pretty parasitic. In large populations, they are capable of exsanguinating critters.
God, Christ alive, my nightmares.
Yeah, so exsanguination is when an animal loses too much blood and dies. Don't look that up. Don't look at
Don't
pictures.
look it up. I have an image in my head from looking at a moose that is,
Yep.
no,
Yeah,
don't
don't
do
do
it.
that.
It gives you nightmares, kids.
Yeah, don't do that. That's bad. They are also capable of moving several diseases. So that's one thing that we're really they're being watched for. For example, Russian spring summer encephalopathy, Powassan's virus, Cassan's virus, tick-borne encephalopathy, Japanese spotted fever, a number of other spotted things, or a number of other vector-borne diseases are capable of moving through Asian longhorn tick. What it can do in the United States is not super known because it is a relatively new invasive. So it is being studied. But I mean, we do have a number of vector-borne diseases that are moved by ticks in the United States that we have to be cautious of, like anaplasmosis, like Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and Lyme disease. So, it's a concern that this tick could potentially affect other diseases. So that's the big concern around Asian longhorn tick, as well as damage to agricultural and agricultural products, that being livestock as well as wildlife. And the wildlife would come through the transmission of diseases as well as exsanguination. Same with livestock. You could potentially move diseases in livestock or exsanguinate them.
Cool. Again, my nightmares.
Okay, Mike brought up Keds, and I should have talked about Keds because that would have been funner for Mike. But we'll talk about Keds real quick.
Bring me on in a year, and we can do a whole ass episode on them. Wait, can I swear in the podcast?
Yes.
Or you
Yeah,
gonna
dude.
leave that out?
No. We're a pro swearing podcast. Okay, we'll put off Keds until next time Mike is on. Ooh, Keds, they're gross.
They're so gross.
Oh yeah, if you want to look up Keds, it's Keds. Your spell check is going to tell you you're wrong, and it's wrong. Keds exist. They've bitten me and they hurt. Okay, so that was our invasive of the week. Do we have any other thoughts on Asian longhorn tick?
Nothing positive.
just negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Biosecurity, it's neat, and you should do it.
You should do it. Yeah, exactly.
Should, but it's work, and we're not gonna.
No, we haven't, and we don't really see. I don't see any signs of that starting now. So, what are you gonna do? If you're thinking about importing livestock from overseas, probably don't.
Yeah.
Probably don't do that.
We have livestock here. Just use the livestock we have already.
Yeah, or just import, like semen and eggs. That works. You don't need to have the whole animal. It's fine.
Yeah, we've figured out. We've got the technology. We've cracked the code.
IVF exists for cows. That's how most cows are born. Just do that. Okay, awesome. So let's move on to our main topic of the week. Vector-borne diseases in Napoleonic eras and how that changed the world as we know it today.
Hell yeah. Bodies are now battlefields.
Nice. You were thinking about that one for a while, weren't you?
I was cooking on that for a little bit.
Yep, I like that. That's a good one.
Oh, that was amazing. Okay. All right, that was great, AJ. That's just props to you. Oh. Okay. All right, Mike. So let's talk about this. I'm still having to recover from AJ. Okay, so the main thrust of, I think, your work on this topic has been in Haiti and how vector-borne diseases changed the French occupation of Haiti and their response to the revolution, and how that changed Napoleon and thus the world. Also, Haiti got screwed for a long, long time. So, Mike, what is the vector-borne disease we're mostly going to be talking about today?
Well, okay.
Actually, let's step back. What is a vector-borne disease?
Yeah, I was going to say,
vector?
we should probably...
We know what a disease
Yeah.
is. So what is a vector-borne disease and what is a vector?
Let's talk about that, and then I'll set up why I think this period in particular is interesting. So a vector-borne disease is any pathogen that is transmitted by a vector. So a vector is something that transmits a pathogen. Generally, we think about insects. So blood-feeding insects and arthropods are really good at this, things like mosquitoes and ticks, because they're feeding on your blood. They're putting their mouth parts where your blood is, and that makes it really easy for pathogens to get from them into you. So that is, oh no, I've lost it. Biological vectors. Mechanical vectors are another type of vector. So if you think about something like flies landing on a pile of poop and then flying over and landing on your food and moving E. coli or another bacteria from that poop to your food, that's another type of vector. It's a mechanical vector because it's just kind of on them because they're in gross stuff that you then somehow get into you. Both types of vectors can be really important in war. So, for example, in the American Civil War, flies moving salmonella and E. coli were really important for getting soldiers sick. It turns out when you put your latrines right next to where you cook your food, that is a great way to move foodborne illness via flies. And that was a huge problem during the American Civil War.
Now, sticking with this, should I also, with about 40,000 of my best friends, camp out next to where about 30,000 of some of my formerly best friends and enemies have recently died, or is that a bad idea too?
That's probably bad too.
No, I was planning on doing that.
Okay, noted for later.
So vector-borne disease, arthropod vector disease, tick and mosquito, and mechanical vector disease pathogens have been really important in conflicts throughout history because war creates opportunities for disease to spread. You get a lot of people in a small area. They are often under stress because they're out in the environment, they're out in the elements, they're not sleeping as much as they should, they're not eating as much as they should. They're getting shot at or, chased or whatever. They're under a lot of stress, and that stress breaks down your immune system, and so it's really easy for all kinds of diseases, vector-borne and other things like poop-borne diseases like typhoid fever, for example, to spread throughout armies and decimate them. So disease in armies has been a problem for as long as armies have existed. And I could give examples going back to the ancient Greeks in 1000 AD, or 1000 BC rather. The reason I like focusing on the Napoleonic period is it hits this sweet spot of, it is right at the tail end of humorism and miasma theory. So we think that the imbalances of the four humors, and so things like bleeding to balance those humors, or miasma, like stinky things, cause disease. It's like 40 years, 80 years before the advent of germ theory. So we don't know germs exist. We don't have antibiotics. And so disease just kind of runs rampant through armies like it has for the however many thousands of years prior to this period. Unlike, say, World War II, where we've got antibiotics.
So this is like 17... So for those of us who aren't 30 plus with at least one kid and you haven't read the Audrey Maturin series, don't hate me. I'm only on the far side of the world.
I'm only on. I finished book 1, so
it's really good.
It's good but dense.
It's so
I just
I've
hate
tried
when
reading
it gets
it.
in.
It's not for me.
I just hate when it gets into the period romance pieces. I know it's important for how a naval captain got a job and work, but like I don't give a shit. Like just get on the boat, man. Just do boat stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the
for those,
Napoleonic period.
yeah. So for those of us who aren't like in like hardcore dad mode, 1790 through like 1820ish.
Yeah.
Maybe even 1780.
Yeah, and I define it to include the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and then the Napoleonic Wars, of which there were a bunch.
Yeah.
And so
Maybe a little bit more generous on that
I
side.
generally date it 1792 through 1850 when Napoleon is kicked out for the last time. And then you start other periods after that. But yeah, it's this 20-ish, plus or minus, year period that brackets the end of the 1700s and the beginning of the 1800s.
And then also, just for us following along at home, Louis Pasteur is born in 1820 and starts really doing work on germ theory in like 1850.
Yeah,
the end of at the end of the Napoleonic era is like when serious work starts getting done on germ theory. I say serious kind of in quotes as best as one can do with the limitations they're working with at the time. So,
yeah, and it really picks up in popularity at the end of the 1800s, like 1880, 1890. So you kind of got this burn for 30 years while Pasteur is working where it picks up. So it's right before germ theory. So we don't don't really know how disease happens. We still think it's stinky gases or imbalance of humors.
That was my question. Were they still doing humors and miasma,
Yep.
or were they? Okay, got it.
Yep, and they were still bleeding people.
Okay.
But despite the fact that we don't know how diseases are transmitted, we've got fairly modern record keeping. So we have, and it's near enough in time that a lot of these records are still extant. So we can go back and read what they wrote, voluminous records from this time. French officers at the time had a high literacy rate. It was a requirement, in fact, for officers to be able to read, because French armies at this time got so big, there was no way a general could verbally relay orders, so it had to be written, so you had to have officers that could write, and a bunch of them kept diaries. So we have all of this firsthand account of what they saw and what they did, and you have to have some interpretation, but when you're reading a person's diary and they say, I was covered in lice that were so numerous I could not count them and they made my skin scabby because of it. Like,
time.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Like, it is, you don't get that from earlier periods.
That's
horrifying, but yes.
My man is having a bad time. Also, Mike, just so you know, before we get any further into this, this podcast is largely pro-Napoleon and anti-English. So that's largely our stance on this. Now, we will say Napoleon and France were wrong on the Haitian Revolution and about all of the colonialism they did, but they were right to fight the English. So that's where we fall on this side of things. Like, I've read the Sharps book. I like the Sharps book. Unfortunately, Sharp is a bad guy, and we shouldn't be rooting for Sharps. He's an anti-hero. So we're a strongly, mostly pro-Napoleon podcast.
I have mixed feelings about Napoleon.
Well, that's fair.
I have extreme respect for him as a general. He treated his wife terribly.
Yeah, which one? Yeah, but both, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, which one? Both. But he was amazing at what he did, and people are flawed. And looking at him as a character in history, not just a person, he's an amazing character.
Yes.
And so I also like this period because of Napoleon. Like, he is colorful in a way that is interesting, and there's three kind of major, when I teach this for my class, there's three major periods that I use to teach about it. The Napoleon's invasion of Egypt, the French response to the Haitian Revolution, and then the Russian invasion of 1812. And I like it because those three events bracket his career. So in Egypt, he is a very young general who is just making a name for himself. In Haiti, he's still part of the Directory, but he is basically an emperor in everything but name. And then 1812 is the beginning of his downfall. And so from a I'm interested in Napoleon perspective, it brackets his career and makes it interesting for people that are coming at this story from the historical side and not the entomological side to like capture them. If you're a Napoleonic buff, this might be something that you'd be interested in because of that.
And if you're not a Napoleonic buff, this still shapes the world that we see around you. I mean, Haiti just finished paying off its debts to France in the mid-2000s.
Yeah. And in all three of them, because Napoleon loses, in part or largely due to vector-borne disease, you can make a case that the world is different because of all three losses.
And
110% on that one.
That's a fun the stance of this podcast, it's mostly different in a bad way. Outside of the Haitian Revolution. Shouldn't have won that. That was a bad thing to keep doing.
I would be curious to see if it's good or bad, because I would argue that we are speaking English in America and not French because of some of this stuff.
Well, yeah, but slavery is bad, so we're gonna always pull for the slave revolt.
Oh, for sure.
And like the enslaved people. So like, give that one up, man. Okay, but I don't.
No.
Most of this.
100%.
Just want to continue our strongly anti-English stance. And Napoleon, if you could say one thing about Napoleon, one thing about Napoleon, hated the English.
That is true.
Yeah,
hated the English. Also, the other thing you could say about Napoleon, he made a really bad movie like last year. Like that was.
I know. I was so excited, and I'm so sad about it.
Oh,
and we're probably not going to get another good one for a while because it didn't do well.
Yeah, because it was bad.
Yeah.
I heard that Spielberg is working on like a 6-part series, and if anybody could pull it off, maybe he can.
Yeah. I mean, Austerlitz famously fought on a pond?
Yeah.
What was that? Okay, anyway, sorry. This isn't
dad chat. This isn't dad battle chat or whatever.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's funny that you bring all that up. So maybe I'll plug my own podcast here.
Yeah,
so I also host a podcast called Arthropod. So that's Arthro-Pod. If you don't include the dash, you won't find it. And I pitched this topic for a 1-episode series. And that 1 episode turned into 6.
Hey, that sounds familiar, AJ.
Yeah, AJ.
Yeah.
That only happened twice.
You guys are only in like episode 12, so the fact that it has happened at all is impressive. So my co-host still razz me about that. So I could go on and on and on about it and get into the minutia of, say, Austerlitz and how that impacted and moved things, even though it's maybe a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back into vector-borne diseases. So we know what vector-borne diseases. They are diseases moved by insects. And in this case, we're not talking mechanical diseases. We're talking things get in your blood. So blood should just be blood. That's
Correct.
The stance of this podcast. Don't put weird things in your blood.
Put stuff in the blood that's not blood.
Okay. So how do vector-borne diseases change world history in Egypt?
Sure. So yeah, we'll start at Egypt because that's the first one of these.
That's the start, baby.
So Napoleon comes back, whips the Austrians in a bunch of surprise victories in Italy, comes back, and the powers that be have this young, really popular general on their hands. And they look at him and think this could be bad because, like any young popular general that has the army and the people behind him, it could be really easy for him to overthrow the government. And they think we need to get this guy out of here. And France at this point is preparing an invasion of Britain. They wanted to land troops in Britain. And it never happened because Napoleon comes along and says, instead of Britain, why don't we take those troops and land them in Egypt? And Egypt at this point is part of the Ottoman Empire. And it is the major route through which the British are importing trade goods from India. They control about half of India at this point. They're like on the roll, kind of incorporating all of India into their empire. And all of those trade goods come up the Red Sea, go across land across the Sinai Peninsula, are picked back up in the Mediterranean, and then shipped to Britain and elsewhere instead of going around Africa. And Napoleon's pitch is, if we can capture this, we can stop that trade, kind of cut Britain off at the knees in terms of income, and force them to capitulate instead of fighting them. And the people that are in charge say, that's great. That gets Napoleon out of here and way over there. And either he dies, which is fine, or he has this great victory in Egypt, which works for us too. And so they agree. And so Napoleon assembles what is at the point the largest army or the largest fleet that the French have ever put together. So there's 13 ships of the line, between 14 and 17 smaller frigates, and I cannot, for the life of me, find the exact number. I've seen anywhere from between 122 and 250 transport ships, 38,000 troops, 13,000 sailors, 171 field guns, 63,000 artillery shells, 8 million rifle rounds, and 2.5 million pounds of gunpowder.
Oh, so he was out for a little drive.
It was an enormous...
That's so much stuff.
Right? And that is just what they set out from France with. The first stop they make is, the island is Malta. Thank you.
Yep.
Is Malta, where the Knights of Malta quickly capitulate, and they capture like another 2 million pounds of gunpowder, and restock. And so they ship all of this stuff to Egypt. They land in Alexandria in the 28th of June, 1798, quickly seize it, march on Cairo, and the Battle of the Pyramids, which Napoleon named that for propaganda value, happened like 30 miles away from the pyramids. You couldn't even see them.
I was going to say, they were nowhere near the pyramids at all.
No.
Unlike in the movie, they're not doing that.
No.
Yeah.
Also, my man is a good propagandist. Like, that's got a hell of a ring to it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It sounds way better than the Battle of the Desert.
The Battle of Nowhere.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah. I would also just like to say the Knights of Malta do keep that thing on them, and that thing being 2.5 million tons or pounds of gunpowder.
It's a lot of gunpowder.
It's a lot, yeah. So the Battle of the Pyramids really sets the tone for the rest of the Egypt campaign. There are somewhere between 500 and 3,000 Egyptian and Ottomans killed in action, and only 29 French. It's like...
That's not good. Those numbers are bad.
It's somewhere between a 10 and a 100 to 1 kill ratio, which is bonkers. And it just kind of stays that way. The problem for Napoleon is that he needs a fleet to get here and a fleet to resupply. And Admiral Nelson of the British Admiral Nelson, famously famous.
The Admiral.
The Admiral
Nelson.
Nelson.
He got a whole column.
Yeah.
I actually believe he's Sir Admiral Nelson, but again, this is an anti-British podcast, so we will not be referring to him by his honorific.
Well, I don't know how much background to give, but he is searching for Napoleon because the British know that there's this giant fleet that their spies told them left, and the Mediterranean is big, and he cannot find it. It's not until after the French capture Cairo that Nelson finds the French fleet anchored at Abukir Bay, and due to some mistakes by the French, which are maybe a little bit too much to get into here, but he basically gets around them, shoots them from the back where they don't have their cannons prepared, and destroys the French fleet. And this means that the British control the Mediterranean, and the French cannot be resupplied with men or supplies. And so the men that Napoleon lands with are all of the men he will ever get, period. And that's a problem when you're trying to capture large chunks of territory and are attriting men through things like, capturing a town and having to have a garrison there. Or just losing
typhoid.
Or typhoid.
Yeah.
Or the runs. Or
it's a desert. Like, you're in a desert, man. Like, that's most of Egypt is desert.
Yep. And so, by January 1799, the French control Egypt. Egypt proper, like all of Egypt. They have basically kicked the Ottomans out. The Ottomans are preparing a counterattack up in what is now Syria, around Damascus. And so Napoleon looks at this and he says, well, I'm not going to let them come here. I'm going to go attack Syria. And so he gets what forces he has left to march up to Syria. Now, he lands with about 38,000 troops, and by the time he is ready to march on Syria, he is down to 13,000. So he's lost about two-thirds of his force.
Oh, those are bad numbers.
Due to casualties, but mostly due to garrisons. You can't keep Cairo without having people with guns in it. And so he can only get 13,000 troops. To get to Syria, to get to Damascus, Napoleon has to march basically along the coast. And so he's got to take a couple of fortified towns there. And he expects them to just kind of fall because he's Napoleon and he doesn't expect much resistance because the rest of Egypt didn't give him much. But actually, they turn into some prolonged sieges. So the first is at El Arish. That takes a couple weeks before he takes it. Then they move up the coast to Jaffa. And it's in Jaffa that they first encounter plague. So they're sieging the town. Men start to die of plague. And it's not a lot. By the time Jaffa is taken, they've only lost 300 troops to plague. The problem with it is that it absolutely devastates morale. So plague had happened in living memory in Europe. So the Great Plague of Marseille was in the 1720s. So, this is the 1790s. It's 70 years, but, these troops, their grandparents may have talked about the Great Plague of Marseille. There still would have been fear about it, kind of out and about. And
they've all heard of the Black Death, probably.
They've all heard of it, yeah.
That's a long time ago, but that's way closer than we are to it. And there's a whole bunch of written stories and stuff of the Western canon, we'll say, of literature that maybe not the common soldier was reading, but the officers and stuff like that know about, may have read or something like that. And so it is it's not like here where you hear about plague and it's in a mouse or something like that out west in a bunkhouse or something like that, or a prairie dog or something like that. It's part of their lives still.
Well, and is it even actually the same disease as Black Death plague, or is this? I mean, we're at a time where there could be 10 different diseases that all get called plague because we don't know. We don't have germ theory yet. They don't know what actual diseases are. It's just something spreads fast and kills you.
Yes, and they knew it because of the symptoms.
So it's bubonic plague.
Yeah, so it's bubonic plague. So your lymph nodes swell up into these black buboes, which are really distinctive for plague in particular. Nothing else has it. And so they knew exactly what it was. And I actually found this quote. I wish I would have written down where I got it from, but this is in notes from 4 years ago. So I'll read the quote, and sorry, I don't remember which French officer wrote this, but this illness has been taken for the plague, and this opinion is so widespread that 4 men who have its symptoms have committed suicide.
Jesus.
That's how they're dealing with the fact that they're not going to survive. And at this time, without antibiotics, it had a 90% fatality rate. So if you got it, almost certainly it would kill you. By the time Napoleon leaves Jaffa and takes the rest of his troops, he leaves a garrison. He leaves 300 troops there. 150 of them die with plague within 2 weeks. And so it again doesn't devastate them. I mean, I guess it devastates the garrison. It kills 50% of them, but it doesn't devastate the army, except through morale.
Well, and plague is one of those things, correct me if I'm wrong here, but once you get a little bit of it, it eventually gets to be a lot of it.
And that is the problem. So it's the spark is caught. The spark of plague is caught in the army. So from Jaffa, they move up the coast to the city of Acre. And this is where Napoleon really is done in. So they had siege cannons in Egypt, and they send them up the coast because siege cannons are big and heavy. And Nelson's navy captures and sinks the French ships that have the siege cannons. So the siege cannons never make it to Jaffa. They just have smaller field artillery, which can't shoot as big a cannonballs at the walls, and so cannot punch through it the way the big siege cannons can. And so the siege of Acre lasts 2 months due to this lack of siege cannons. They lose 2,300 of the 13,000 troops killed in action due to ineffective assaults. They just throw men at the walls, trying to scale them with ladders, and they're just shot down. They also lose 1,300 to plague. So it's about...
Yeah, I was gonna say is like any siege, is like you're trying to do it as fast as possible before you run out. Like it's a race in time before who runs out of food or gets more plague than the other guy. So yeah, damn. Okay, and you're just throwing guys at it, and has he figured out that he's been cut off yet, or has he?
Yes.
Is he just still throwing guys at this?
So he knows that he's not getting any more troops from France. He knows the siege cannons are gone, and he's kind of at a loss, I think, for what to do. And so he just throws men at it because that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And so he loses 1,300 troops to plague. It's about 10% of his total force, which is not a lot, except they do actually break through the walls at one point. They get through the walls, and the French troops start to get in, and like a dozen guys make it through the hole, and then they're repelled. Because there's just, at that point, 2 months in, there's just not enough of them left. And so you can make this scenario where, had they not lost 1,300 troops, 10% of their force to plague, like maybe they've got that extra gas in the tank to push through that hole and actually capture the city. And had they done that, they probably would have been able to turn on the Ottomans and continue and keep this whole area. But as it is, they're repelled. Napoleon retreats, and they lose all of, kind of the Palestine area, and retreat back to France. Retreat back to Egypt, rather.
But to play devil's advocate here, so what if they win? Like they don't have any reinforcements coming. Like, you're still losing either way here because you don't have the occupation force.
So what Napoleon wants to happen, if he can take and hold this whole region, is that there is a significant minority of Christians in the area. And he is convinced that if he can throw off the Muslim rulers of the area and come in as a Christian from France, that they will rise up and he'll be able to fill his ranks back up with basically Christian minority conscripts. But because he's repelled and can't hold this region, that never happens. Now, could he have been effective with that kind of force? Maybe. He may have been able to hold the territory. He may have been able to keep the Ottomans at bay longer, but as it is, with the dwindling number of French forces, he can't. So Napoleon actually leaves his troops in 1798, after this defeat. He goes back to France and spins it all as a victory for him, and the French population loves it.
Yep. I remember studying this. This guy just comes out and says, "Oh yeah, no, I actually won, and it's a good thing that half of my army is dead, and the other half is just kind of chilling, waiting for relief, and I have 2 ships left." And it's just cool shit.
And it's a huge propaganda victory for him. And even though he leaves, the French hold Egypt for another 3 years under different commanders, despite the ever dwindling number of troops. They keep winning these lopsided victories with 20-1 kill ratios, just bonkers stuff. But even so, they just get cut down and cut down and cut down until it's untenable and they lose Egypt. So that's maybe of the 3 scenarios, that's maybe the furthest fetched one. Because like you said, Calvin, what if he had held Acre? Maybe nothing. Maybe they would have kept kind of the Palestine region. Maybe the Christians would have rose up to his banner. a lot of things would have had to happen for it to have gone differently than just a French defeat. But with losing Acre, it was 100% going to be a French defeat. And Napoleon, if nothing else, is really good at kind of pulling off like the crazy win that nobody thought would happen. So had he kept Acre, I don't want to say it absolutely would have gone like it did, because he's really good at, pulling that kind of win out of his ass at the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say he can pull victory from the jaws of defeat like no one's business. Like that is like his thing. I think pretty extensively throughout his career is he's just able to do this amazing stuff and get impossible victories out of his men and the terrain, I guess.
Yeah. So that's Egypt. That's the first one. And I like it because we can talk about plague. We talk about Napoleon's early career. A lot of people don't think about Napoleon in Egypt. If you're into Napoleon, it's probably something you've heard about. But when you mention to most people about Napoleon, they're like, oh, who's that? The French guy that was short?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Which he was normal height.
Yeah,
yes.
he was like
Yeah,
5'7".
everyone was short back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they know anything else about him, they still probably don't know he was in Egypt. So I like to bring it up because of that. So that's Egypt. That's the first one. The next event, and Calvin, you mentioned it, is the Haitian Revolution. And so to set up the Haitian Revolution, just a minute. Oh, go.
Background on Haiti.
Yeah.
So, wonderful, beautiful island in the Mediterranean. We're just thinking about Egypt. In the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean island, great, really great place for growing things. Been inhabited for a really long time. Hispaniola is one of the first places the Spanish show up, and they start doing colonialism. Eventually, the French take over. The French colonize Haiti, and they establish one of the most brutal slave societies in the world.
And that's saying something for slave societies. I'd like to kind of put that out there.
But it is also, and this is not to defend France, in establishing one of the most brutal slave societies in the world. It is to extract sugar, it's to grow sugar and extract it, that is, as it is today, one of the most profitable commodities. So this is a money printer for France. This is what allows France to do a lot of stuff. Is the cultivation of sugar on Haiti, on the backs of thousands and thousands of people who die. And they die terribly. The lifespans of slaves in Haiti is incredibly short. It's like 3 years is your average lifespan. Or I think it's like 2 or 3 years. So it's not a good place to be if you're a slave. Now, if you are a French planter, it can be an okay place. But you got to make it through that first year or so because of the diseases, that big malaria and yellow fever. So if you can make it to those first couple of years, you live a very nice life. So that's a little bit of background on Haiti. Mike,
I'm just going to quickly put in a plug right now for anyone who hasn't listened to the Mike Duncan Revolution series on Haiti. It's kind of like the series on how to understand
It's
all
so
of this
good.
stuff. It's fantastic. Anyways, continue on, Mike.
Well, and just to stay on this for a minute, because I've got the numbers in front of me, to drive home Calvin's point about how terrible it was. So we think about slavery in the United States and how the southern states were a slave society. And that's kind of, at least for Americans, our go-to thought about what slavery is. And this is not that. So in the name of the colony is Saint-Domingue at the time. So in Saint-Domingue, what would become Haiti after the revolution, 90% of the inhabitants were enslaved Africans. About 450,000 slaves compared to 40,000 freed people. And it does have some of the most brutal conditions of slavery in human history. The only places that might be worse are Roman mines. There's about a 10% mortality per year amongst the slave population. And it was because sugar was so profitable, it was cheaper to buy new slaves and import them than to keep the slaves you had healthy. So it was cheaper to just work them to death and buy new slaves.
Which is insane.
That's what they did a lot of.
Yeah.
That's insane to me. It's like it's easier to import something from across the Atlantic Ocean.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
Sorry,
They're
cheaper.
Different things.
Still, though, the fact that it's cheaper is insane to me.
Yeah. And over the course of the span of history of Saint-Domingue, about 800,000 enslaved people are sent there. It is 2 times more enslaved people went to Saint-Domingue by itself than the rest of North America combined.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's absolutely bonkers. The one thing to say, though, about it is that the French slavery system was different from the American one in one really important way. And that is, if you were freed, you're free, period. If you were an enslaved person that was freed for whatever reason, your I hesitate to say owner, but your owner frees you. If you are born of mixed heritage, technically, because you have a white parent, generally the man, that means you're supposed to be free. It doesn't always happen. There were a lot of slave owners that kept their children enslaved. But it did mean that there was a really big mixed population that was free, and a large population of black people that were free. And so on Saint-Domingue, by the time the revolution hits, only about 1/3 of the free population is white from France. The other 2/3 are black Africans or mixed. And that makes it really different from the American slave system where, the 1 drop rule applies. If you have 1 drop, that means you're black and therefore enslaved.
Now, there's I think they had like 16 categories of,
They had spreadsheets. Yeah.
Categorization. So there's a lot of interestingness in there, but it's kind of, it's really funny.
It gets weirder too, because if you're free, you're free. That means a lot of people of mixed heritage had slaves and were slaveholders. A lot of Africans that had won their freedom turn around and become slaveholders themselves. So there's a lot of weird factionalism within Haiti, and this becomes, and it's a lot to get into here, and too much to get into here, but it means that the whites are fighting the coloreds, or the mixed people are fighting the blacks, or the people straight from Africa, and you've got the big whites, who are the planter class, and the small whites, who are kind of the working white class, who are the rich and the poor within the white class. And all of them hate each other, and all of them fight each other, and how the alliances form and split and reform in different ways, with alliances from the government of France, who is trying to reassert control once Haiti revolts, makes how the Haitian Revolution spills out really dynamic and hard to follow, because everybody is constantly changing sides and who they're allied with.
Well, and then we also have people constantly dying, and one of the big killers of especially, the French people who come to Haiti from France is disease, which you're going to tell us about in a second. But
yes.
I think what's important to remember is one of the things the white population always wants to do is to send their kids to France and then to be French. Even if you are from Haiti and you have are a successful planter in Haiti, it doesn't matter, you are always going to be outclassed by someone who just moved here from Paris. You always want to be more French than you are, unless you've just moved there from France. But if you've just moved there from France, you have a high likelihood of getting killed by disease. So Mike, tell us about what disease is killing most of the people.
So the 2 main diseases here. So we had fleas and plague in Egypt. The other reason I like this set of stories is because we have different vectors and different diseases. So in Saint-Domingue, we're looking at mosquitoes, primarily looking at yellow fever, although malaria is kind of a heavy hitter, second runner-up.
You can't ever forget my boy malaria. If someone's dying from a vector-borne disease, malaria is always in the mix.
Malaria is always there at low levels and does outbreak sometimes, but when the Haitian Revolution hits, it's the outbreaks of yellow fever that are the most devastating. And the interesting thing with yellow fever is if you get it and survive, you are immune to it for life. And so the white French people that are coming over have never been exposed to yellow fever, and you have to go through this period where you have to figure out if you're going to survive your yellow fever or not. And so if you survive a year on Haiti or on Saint-Domingue, there's probably a good chance that you're going to survive in perpetuity because you'll probably have gotten yellow fever and made it.
And so what's the mortality rate of that first infection? It's pretty high, but what is it?
I had it. Where is it? 1 in 7 people die.
All right, so it's pretty high. So like
High. It's not dramatically high the way plague kills 90%, but 1 in 7, 1 in 10. Like, I don't want to roll the dice at a 10% mortality rate. That seems real risky.
just if you're moving somewhere, you have like very little. Like, okay, I'm going to move here. I have nothing. I'm gonna go be a bad guy in one of the worst places to be. I'm gonna be a slave master in one of the worst places to be. Oh, and there's a good chance I just die.
Yeah, good chance. 1 in 10. If yellow fever doesn't kill you, you might get malaria. You might get some other tropical disease too. So the interesting thing then with the African population, the black population, is that because the people that they are capturing and importing from Africa are largely adults, they have generally been exposed to yellow fever as children and survived. So the black African population is largely immune to yellow fever because they've already gotten it. The slaves that are imported from Africa are the survivors of childhood yellow fever. And so that makes this really different dynamic too, where the white population is really susceptible, but the black population from Africa is not. And then the mixed population is also largely susceptible until they're adults, because at that point they will have been children and survived or died. Okay, so the French Revolution kicks off. A lot of things are happening in France. Then, due to what's happening in France, the Haitian Revolution kicks off. Part of it is the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen. Basically, the French say all men are created equal. The Haitian slaves see this and say, that means us, right? And the slaveholders say, actually, no, it doesn't. And they decide to take that liberty by force. Good for them. And so the Haitian Revolution kicks off in 1791. In 1793, it's still going. 2,000 white colonists at this point flee to Philadelphia. At this point, Philly was the capital of the United States. Washington, D.C. had not yet been built. It's the largest population in the largest city population-wise in the United States, with about 50,000 people. And these fleeing French refugees kick off the first yellow fever outbreak in the United States. So yellow fever rages through Philadelphia starting on August 1st and ending, generally considered to end on the 9th of September 1793. In a city of 50,000, 5,000 are left dead, so about 10% mortality rate.
Jeez.
20,000 people flee the city, including all of the government, like George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and all of the founding fathers that are in Philadelphia because it's the capital. There's no cure. There's no prevention at this time. And the only thing that ended the yellow fever outbreak in Philadelphia was the fact that cold weather killed the mosquitoes that vector it.
So for the mechanics of this, like a mosquito fed on someone that had yellow fever and then went and fed on someone else.
For the most part, yes. So about 1% of the mosquitoes that carry yellow fever are born with it. It can be transmitted transvarially from mother to offspring. It's just not common. It's like 1% of eggs of a mother that has it will have it then as adults. So 99% of mosquitoes that have yellow fever have it because they picked it up through a blood meal. They feed on an infected person. It has to incubate in them for a while, and then they go feed on another person and they transmit it.
So does that? So quick question. So just because it doesn't take that long to cross the ocean, I guess that just means like mosquitoes just kind of live everywhere, and then you jump off in Philly, and then that's how you get at them.
Philly support. There's a lot. It's like a big estuary.
Yeah. So going from Saint-Domingue to Philly is actually a fairly quick trip. It's only like 2 weeks or less.
Okay.
So a person with yellow fever could if they're bitten right as they're leaving Haiti, right as they're leaving Saint Domingue, they would start to become symptomatic when they hit Philadelphia. And then you just need a mosquito that's there. You also, could bring mosquitoes on your ship that have it.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So that's not the question of how that got initially from Africa to the Americas is interesting because that's a much longer trip. It was almost certainly due to the slave trade.
Figures.
But it's unclear, like, was it 6 slaves and just mosquitoes breeding on board? Was it this 1% of mosquito eggs that have it that was enough because the eggs were coming over in, like, water barrels? It's not clear how it got to Africa from the Americas, but Saint Domingue to Philly is much, much easier because it's a fairly short trip.
Okay.
So slavery, bold stance of the podcast. Thank you, guys. I hope you support
slavery bad. Wow.
Slavery bad. Yeah. Real bad.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
So we're going to bring the British back. In August of 1793, the British and the French are fighting in Europe, and the British decide to invade Saint Domingue. They figure if we can pull this sugar colony away from France, we're going to cut off their financial, their money printer. So they send seasoned veterans from Jamaica, so troops that have probably been exposed to yellow fever and survived, at the end of the rainy season in 1793. And by June 1794, they control about a third of the colony with 50 combat losses. So like the French in Egypt, they kind of start steamrolling through Saint Domingue, and what resistance they meet is quickly crushed. However, between June and 1794, the rainy season starts up, and yellow fever starts to spike because all of a sudden you have, a much bigger white population of people that are, while they're seasoned in Jamaica, a lot of them still haven't had yellow fever. And the British start to lose about 10% of their forces per month. Because of these depleting forces, they are pushed back to just a few port towns, which they hang on to for a couple of years. In 1796, they send another 10,000 troops to Saint Domingue. Within a month, 6,000 of them died of yellow fever because it's still outbreaking.
Sorry, I'm just like you're feeding guys to the mosquitoes. Like you're not even feeding them to the rebellious slaves or the Frenchmen or whatever. No. You're feeding them to a bunch of mosquitoes.
Yeah. And we're
just turning British people into mosquitoes at this point.
Which again, I gotta just point this out. Per the Stances podcast, is the correct thing to do. This is correct. Also, the Brits are not good guys in this. They're not covering themselves in glory. They are, as it has been done in Jamaica, will continue.
They're going to continue to run a slave colony. Yeah. I understand that. It just insane idea of just like, okay, 10% in a single month, gone, dead, buried, hopefully somewhere. Like
we haven't fired a shot.
Yeah, and you haven't even, you may have, again, had a skirmish with a bunch of rebellious slaves in the hills. That's the extent of it. You haven't even had a staged battle or whatever, what you may have been expecting. That's bananas.
And it's not really, it's really good, not to be in yellow fever side here, but it's very handy for the good guys, in this case, that being the Haitian revolutionaries, if they have yellow fever, because otherwise they're losing in a heartbeat to the French and the English, because, not a lot of European-style training is going on. Haiti is not, heavily armed prior to the revolt because of the threat of revolt. So, you do have guns and cannons and stuff, but, most of that leaves when the French leave. They're taking that with them.
Yep. So, in 1798, the British pull out of Saint Domingue largely due to political pressure because they are feeding so many men into the wood chipper of yellow fever. They lose somewhere around 15,000 of the 25,000 troops they send to Saint Domingue due to yellow fever alone.
That's one disease.
They lose fewer to 100 to combat.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's insane. Just give up. That's you're making
They did just give up.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. They did. Okay.
Eventually.
They're like, shit. Yellow fever pants, dog.
I'm going to choose to blame it on, it takes, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or whatever for a message of, oh my God, we're dying. Just make us leave, get back to London, and then back again.
Well, this is a known, issue with the colonies in Jamaica, is that you're going to lose most of, most of the guys who go there, you're going to lose most of them. But because of the timing, because they go there, because they leave before the rainy season, like the dudes had not been seasoned up, even though they hadn't like been exposed and died.
Yeah, and across the whole Caribbean, so there's other things the British are trying to do, other territory they're trying to take from the French, other slave revolts they're trying to put down. They've got a lot of troops in the Caribbean writ large at this point. And around this time, they lose 15,000 in San Domingue. They lose about 75,000 across the entire Caribbean due to yellow fever.
So
bonkers numbers.
It's bonkers.
That's so
like
many dudes.
we're approaching like, some classical battle, someone's, Alexander the Great had this many guys attacking, Tyre or something like that. Like we're approaching that many people just wasted by, again, freaking mosquito, man.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And it's
Just to put things in perspective, like in the Revolutionary War, the Americans lost 25,000 dudes. So this is like 3 Revolutionary Wars.
it's enough that there is extreme concern among the political class in Britain that there might be like another civil war.
Good. Good. They should be afraid of that.
Yeah. So,
Feeding your guys to a wood chipper.
yeah, all in support of colonialism.
Kind of mosquito chipper.
So, fast forward a couple of years, 1801. There's peace between France and Britain for a short time, but there is peace at this time, and France abolishes slavery. They're the first. They're the first one to do it, and they, depending on your political stripes in France, they really do try to like bring Haiti into the fold politically. They try to, like, it's not just talk that slavery is abolished. Like, some of these folks really want to like integrate the former black slaves. Napoleon comes to power, and he says, no. Slavery is actually really good, and we want San Domingue to be producing money for us, so we're going to reinstate slavery in San Domingue.
Yeah, because the thing about war is it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the thing about sugar is it makes you a lot of money, but it makes you even more money when you don't pay people.
Yeah, if you have to pay people, that cuts into your profits. And so Napoleon tries to reinstate slavery in San Domingue, and again, there's kind of political machinations between all of the factions in San Domingue that all still hate each other with the French government. But eventually, because there is peace between France and Britain, France tells Britain, hey, we'd really like to get Haiti back, or San Domingue back. And the British look at this and say, we better let them, because we don't want this revolution to spill over into Jamaica. And so the British go along with it. They allow the French to send a fleet of 20,000 soldiers and 22,000 sailors and 35 ships of the line from France to San Domingue.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And it's clear by this point that yellow fever is going to kill Europeans in droves if they show up in the rainy season. So the French want to depart in October, and they want to have the colony back under control by the rainy season the following May.
Really shouldn't be sailing across the Atlantic in the winter.
Yeah, so that's the
Which is what
problem.
you're going to do.
Yeah.
Storms delay them until December, and so they've already lost months in this timeline. And they arrive in 1802 in January, and they do what European armies do. They win a string of victories. Like, they mop the floor with the revolutionaries. Not saying that is good, but it's expected, because they are good at what they do.
Yeah, I mean, you got veterans of Austerlitz and like all of Napoleon's like land campaigns in here.
And you get a lot of those veterans who there's peace in Europe and they've got nothing to do. And here's another adventure, another way to make money. So you get a lot of veterans that show up for this campaign.
And you're going to, again, like, I hate to keep hammering on this, the richest place in France.
And if you go, you might get land. You might get something out of it.
And people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could, if you go and play it right, you could become rich beyond anything that you could think to do in France at this time as like a common soldier.
Like running a guy at Austerlitz for his pockets and his boots, one thing. ending it with like a couple of people, like a couple of acres in Haiti, is a completely different level of wealth
Of making
than,
it. Yeah.
than going through somebody's pockets. These are very, very different levels.
Yeah. So the French in early 1802 are doing very well. And then they want to finish up by May, but the rainy season begins early. And by the end of February, the French start losing 10% of their force per month to yellow fever. They start, like the British, sending wave after wave of reinforcements. And these reinforcements, in turn, just make the yellow fever outbreak worse because you have all of these unseasoned white Europeans showing up that just get yellow fever and die and let the virus replicate and get more mosquitoes infected. So by November of 1802, of the 38,000 troops that the French sent, around 7,000 died in combat. Actually, a lot more than you would expect died in combat. About 8.
I was going to say, it's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
That's a respectable number to have died in combat.
Compared to like the 100 that the English had.
Well, it should be
Shout
said.
out to the revolutionaries.
Yeah, the revolutionaries at this point have almost a decade of experience.
Oh, God, yeah, you're right.
So
They've been doing this.
They've been doing this for a while, and yes, the French can still, in a pitched battle, beat them, but a lot of the casualties come when the French have to go up into the mountains. And you can't do a pitched battle, and it's guerrilla warfare with these revolutionaries shooting from behind trees. And it is not the kind of fighting that the French do well at. It's not the kind of fighting that the Americans now do well at. No,
I was going to say.
It sounds familiar. Yep.
Established powers don't do good at guerrilla conflict.
Especially in the tropical rainforest.
Especially.
Which is what you had. The rest in peace, the forests of Haiti. Different story, different podcast.
So around of the 38,000 troops, 21,000 die of disease. Almost all of that is yellow fever, with a smaller contingent from malaria. At the peak of the outbreak, some ships reported 90% mortality rates before they even disembarked.
Oh my
Jesus Christ.
Like, they just show up and they
we lost the
die
battle
in
to the
port.
harbor.
Yeah, they die in port. 7,000 are in hospital due to disease. So these are guys in November that are sick but haven't died yet. And only 3,000, about 8% of the 38,000 are fit for duty.
God.
And yeah, so I think, Calvin, you said it, that it really is yellow fever that wins it for the Haitian Revolution. And if you were to tell that to a Haitian today, they would probably punch you in the face.
Which is fair. Fair. Hey, look, they did a lot of work.
They did. Like,
no disrespect.
The revolutionaries did the work. 18%, 7,000 combat losses is not nothing. But I think what would have happened without yellow fever is that maybe the French take the lowlands where the sugar plantations are, and they do what the British did. The British never had the mountains of Jamaica. The freed slaves were up there with guns, and they just let them be. Sometimes they'd send a patrol up to kind of shake things up. But I think the French probably would have taken the lowlands, like the British had in Jamaica, for the sugar plantations, left the mountains, maybe sent patrols up every now and again to make sure they didn't come down. But I think the French probably would have taken what they wanted from the island had yellow fever not been there.
Well, and you see, like, similar to your point, Mike, you see similar things in, like, even the Southeast United States, like in the Carolinas and the coastal communities. You get the Gullah Geechee, which is a unique culture that pops up as a Creole of escaped slaves and indigenous people. So, like, that in, like, coastal Carolina, where on those sea islands where, like, you can't really get out there if you're not, like, you don't need to, because you got to take a boat. It's really dense. It's really buggy. It's not a place you want to be.
It's harder to get out there than it is worth, going out there to put down this slave rebellion or this, society or whatever. And it's, the same thing for the interior.
And also you have all the valuable parts. What's a bunch of former slaves going to do?
You've got the spots that are good for growing cotton and shit. Like, why bother with this shitty little island?
So that's not at all like an impossible thing. Like, even in a very established slave society of the United States, and like you said, Jamaica, like you do have these pockets of resistance where the good guys win. the good guys in this case being the formerly enslaved people. So, like, yeah, it's a very, very, very possible situation.
Yeah, and even the leaders at the time recognized how important disease and yellow fever were. We don't have we don't have a lot of correspondence from the Haitian Revolution the way we do a lot of conflicts in Europe, for all of the reasons that you don't have a lot of papers surviving in other tropical areas. Like, a lot of it just deteriorated. Haiti was in a revolution, so a lot of it just got burned and destroyed.
I was gonna say, between the fact that it rains a lot, it's hot a lot, and you're dealing with a revolution that burns a lot of stuff. Yeah, sounds about right.
Some stuff's
And
gonna
dudes
go
get killed pretty frequently in the Haitian Revolution. Like, even on the good guy side, this being the non-French side, like, there's a lot of infighting. A lot of dudes are getting killed. Like,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Toussaint Louverture, I don't think if he survived to this point, but like he got one of the main first guys gets exiled. I think there's at least another 2 or 3 various leaders that get exiled, killed, or what have you. So
Fight each other.
Yeah, have various splinter factions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the Voltaire quote, "The revolution eats its own"? Something like that. Something
I
close
know
to that.
that's a quote. I don't know if it's Voltaire.
Yeah, let's pretend that I was smart and I got it right.
You brought him up, Toussaint Louverture. The one reference we do have to disease, he is writing to Dessalines, like one of his major generals under him. In the letter, he says, basically, we need to delay the French until, tear up the road with shot, delay them as long as you can, until disease takes them out with the rainy season, until fever kills them. And so his plan was to retreat to the mountains and let the French die once the rainy season hit. And so it very much was, it was very much a tactic that they would have known and used. And so I don't want to speak for modern Haitians, but reading some of the things that they've written, they would be upset by saying, I think, that disease helped them win, when it's clear from the numbers that it did, but also the leaders at the time, that was the plan. It's in their handwriting that was the plan. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conflict. I did not expect that.
Yeah, and so by 1803, the French come to the conclusion, we're not going to retake Saint-Domingue. The French leave in 1804, so the Haitian Revolution is the only successful slave revolt in history. Props to them for doing it.
Hell yeah.
1803, Britain declares war against France again. Wars are expensive, we've kind of mentioned already, and France is bleeding money from all of the conflicts. And so, because Napoleon needs money, because he's lost Saint-Domingue, and he's turning his eyes away from the New World.
Because he's lost hard in a lot of places. Like, we also see the Louisiana Purchase and some other stuff.
So
he's done with the U.S.
Well, because he loses Saint-Domingue, his plan for the Louisiana Purchase, which is a large tract of land in central North America, the central United States, the plan was he was going to turn that into a breadbasket to feed the slaves of Saint-Domingue. It's really difficult to get bread from France to Saint-Domingue. It's a long trip, but it is a lot shorter trip to go from New Orleans to Saint-Domingue. It's like right there. But because he loses Saint-Domingue, he doesn't need the Louisiana territory anymore. And so Napoleon needs money. He approaches the United States government and says, would you like to buy this giant chunk of property right next to you? And they agree. So the French sell the Louisiana Purchase to the United States, 828,000 square miles. It doubles the size of the United States. They sell it for $15 million. This is equivalent to $345 million in 2020 dollars.
Jesus
it's about
Christ.
65 cents per acre.
Yeah, Napoleon sold low. But a lot of good things you could say about Napoleon. He was not great at budgeting.
No. And the one thing, we've talked about the slaves and the revolutionaries being the good guys. The Louisiana Purchase like that whole area is still inhabited by Native Americans. It's basically Europeans in the American government selling the rights to go exterminate the Native Americans in this place. Like, nobody controlled this area. It was still Native Americans living there like they had for hundreds of years. This was all white people on paper saying, no, you have that and go deal with the natives. And so had yellow fever not existed, I think if I could do a counterfactual, I think the French probably would have taken Saint-Domingue. The French or the British, one of them would have taken it. Had that happened, especially if the French had taken it, I don't think we see the Louisiana Purchase being sold. And so you got this giant chunk of what is now the United States that is still in French hands. And so what happens after that? I mean, maybe the French and the United States go to war because the United States government really wanted that property or that land. Mm-hmm. Maybe they go like directly to war over it. Maybe that never happens. Maybe France wins that and keeps it, and maybe that whole part of the country is still under France today. Who knows what happens with like World War I and II if France never loses the Louisiana Purchase. Like it everything goes out the window in terms of like what happens with history.
I was going to say this is a Harry Turtledove book waiting to happen.
Yeah. Well, also like this whole podcast is in French. Because you're educated in Arkansas, which is Louisiana Purchase, from the Midwest. John is in the Midwest, and AJ is also from the Midwest. We all speak in French, boys. You know.
Bonjour.
Yeah.
So I like to, especially when I'm teaching this for my class, I really like to point at that because that feels like something even students that aren't interested in American history or history at all can like really grasp. Like this part. All of these states, if you're from there, that got sold because they lost Saint-Domingue.
And if you have any kind of passive familiarity with the Midwest, you'll see like Lafayette, like half the names,
Waterloo,
like the Midwest are either French or indigenous, and then there's occasional German names in there, like New Berlin. Yeah. But everything in the Midwest, most things in the Midwest are either French or indigenous. So without like the French leaving, the Midwest, the best part of the United States, stays French.
Yep.
Well, and
Iowa's flag is an American eagle on a French tricolor.
You get the voyageurs, who were the first people, like the first the first Europeans in most of North America are French fur traders. So, but we don't need to get super far into that. But
and what happens if the United States isn't coast to coast? Like, we had California, we had the West Coast, but it's a long way to go by ship. It's a lot easier to say, make a transcontinental railroad. But if France owns the middle part of the country, that makes it real difficult. I don't know if the United States ever becomes a superpower at that point.
Well, post-revolution America is not beating, Napoleon at his height, all right?
Oh, God, no.
Like, we are not throwing down. We barely beat the South, and those boys were not as good as Napoleon.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the Haitian Revolution in a nutshell. And, if you really want to get in the nitty-gritty of it, go listen to Mike Duncan's Revolutions podcast, because that season is amazing if you want more details.
Slightly less detail on the vector-borne disease part, but he does talk about it a lot.
But I think we all hit upon the fact that we just fed, I don't know how many tens of thousands of men to a bunch of mosquitoes just because.
Just to turn them into more yellow fever.
Yeah,
exactly.
Age-old enemy of the podcast, capitalism and slavery. Don't do either. If you have a choice to found your economy on capitalism or slavery, don't do it.
Don't.
Simply go to the swamp and create the more equitable society.
Or the mountains.
Oh yeah. In this case, the mountains. But also the swamp. The swamp is a good place to protect yourself.
You could have some swamp in the mountains.
Yeah.
We've got bogs up here in Kettles.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What's a little high altitude peat bog, but a swamp in the mountains?
Yeah.
Coasins,
I like it.
Man. Yeah.
Okay, so you said the last thing that we could potentially do is Russia.
Yes.
Now, this one I'm most interested in because, famously, Napoleon retreats from Russia in the winter, and most ticks and insects are not active in the winter.
God, I'm so glad you bring that up.
I do what I can. Except, I mean, obviously, in Eastern North America, we have the winter tick, which is a
Wait,
gross,
what?
disgusting thing. Don't worry about it.
I feel like I should.
They don't bite people.
No, they. Yeah, it's if you're like a moose or a cow, it's a real problem. But you're
Okay.
not, so it's fine. That's why I said don't worry about it.
So far.
I just, I hear the word tick, my alarm bells go off.
We did see some ticks that were exsanguinated by winter ticks and Asian longhorn ticks. That was a bad time.
I'm 90. Okay, sorry, Mike, go on before I go down a rabbit hole.
So, okay, I'll get us back on track. So, post Haitian Revolution and post sale of Louisiana Purchase, Napoleon keeps fighting all of Europe. So, 1805 to 1806, we have the War of the Third Coalition. 1806 to 1807, we have the War of the Fourth Coalition. 1809, we have the War of the Fifth Coalition. And by the end of the War of the Fifth Coalition, every time Napoleon wins one of these wars, he gets territorial concessions. And by 1812, the First French Empire is at its peak of territorial control. They
By
have...
1812, we get the national anthem.
Yeah, La Marseillaise.
Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking Francis Kaki.
Oh, I was thinking France, because that's...
I was thinking with the good guys, Mike.
Oh, no. So France controls directly or indirectly most of Europe, all of Western Europe except for the United Kingdom. They're fighting in Spain in the Peninsular War. They've got
Ooh, that's the Spanish ulcer.
the Spanish ulcer. Wow. Okay, perfect. And they keep feeding
I
troops
know
in.
things.
I know things.
They have a lot of the Baltic states, and it's clear by 1812, and it had been clear by like 1810, that Russia, the other really big in terms of landmass empire in Europe and Asia, and France are going to go head to head, because France doesn't like the fact that Russia is trading with Britain. They want that to stop, and so Russia does for a little bit, and it's economically devastating. Russia starts trading with Britain again, and France doesn't like it. So the two big empires of Europe are going to fight. And it takes a while to gear up. Everybody knows it's coming. And the French are the first ones to pull the trigger. So in 1812, the French start moving their men. Then they start pulling men from the Peninsular War in Spain to Poland, where they start amassing troops. So the French forces, on the eve of the Russian invasion, there's 611,000 troops. It's the biggest land army in Europe ever assembled up to this point. Almost 500,000 are infantry, almost 100,000 cavalry, and then about 20,000 auxiliary troops. And the interesting thing about this is because at this point the French Empire is a multi-state empire, of those 600,000, only about 200,000 are French by descent. You got 130,000 Germans, 90,000 Poles and Lithuanians, 27,000 Italians, 9,000 Swiss, and 30,000 Austrians and 20,000 Prussians. So it is a conglomerate of basically Western Europe, with French making 1/3 of it.
Just thinking from a disease perspective, it's really good to get a bunch of people together from a bunch of different places, put them under a long-term stress that could, just potentially a long-term stress, assuming your logistics system is completely worked out. And that long-term stress being marching across Russia.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yes?
It's a great idea.
Okay, perfect. All right, good. Because I'm making plans for later. So my summer plans are somewhere around getting, again, like about 500,000 of my closest homies from various
all
European
over.
nations.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't too good. I just said Europe. I'm not going to just limit it to Europe, but take whoever comes. But we're looking for about 500,000, folks and horses. Because, again, diseases don't cross between
Probably cattle and oxen, too.
non-humans.
Pigs.
Food on the
and
hoof.
humans.
We definitely want to bring
Yeah.
some pigs.
Yeah, we just had an episode about pigs and how pigs are not a great vector for various diseases. Right, so we're not setting up here. This isn't foreshadowing is a device used as a literary device used by cowards.
So it's funny that you bring up logistics, because Napoleon actually put a lot of thought into logistics.
Homie loved his wagon manifest.
It didn't work out, but he put a lot of effort into it. And so for these 600,000+ troops, they have enough supplies for 50 days, which doesn't sound...
that's enough. You could definitely get across Russia.
Well, so Napoleon thinks he's going to get in and get out like he's done all of his other wars. He is famous for getting in, having a huge set-piece battle that he wins, and just knocking the other country on their ass and out of the fight. And so that's what he expects is going to happen again. Sorry, I interrupted somebody.
No, you didn't.
No, I was going to say, like, I was thinking, like, 50 days, you said, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, like, 50 days of food for 500,000 men, and assuming camp followers as well, like, that's a lot. That's, and we're in the 1812s, so, like, that's a lot of stuff to do, essentially all with muscle. Like, we don't have the internal combustion engine yet. Like, this is all with being moved by muscle. That is freaking impressive. Like,
horses and oxen.
Yeah.
Horses, oxen, and dudes. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Now, I was also going to say, quick get in and get out. Who is Napoleon? My wife? Hey!
Yeah.
So, you said that's a lot. The army they took a year to build up supplies in different supply depots across what is now Germany and Poland. They had 20 million rations of bread, 20 million rations of rice, 2 million bushels of oats for the oxen and the horses, hundreds of millions of rifle rounds, God knows how much gunpowder.
Well, musket, and, again, to be pedantic, musket and rifle, because this time your skirmisher is using a rifle and the line infantry is using a musket.
Yes.
Also, to distract for a quick second, so they're baking this bread for like a year in advance. Then do you think you eat the old stuff first, or do you eat the old stuff last?
I think you eat the stuff that gets to you.
Yeah. I feel like yeah. I feel like there's a lot of, we'll say, stuff getting, lifted and dropped off of the back of a cart along the way for various reasons.
So the French have 611,000 troops. The Russians have around 490,000. So not quite even, but still a lot.
That's pretty close.
The problem is 350,000 of those are new recruits that aren't trained. And there's only 300,000 in the immediate area. Russia's big, and they cannot get troops to the area fast enough to really counter Napoleon.
And it also famously sucks to be a Russian soldier at this time period. Like, when you get conscripted, your family does a funeral for you because, like, oh, you're never coming back. Mm-hmm. You get conscripted for 25 years, and they're like, yeah, oh, that's a good point, AJ, anytime. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at this time, they're like, oh, yeah, you're dead. Sorry.
Yeah, bye.
Rest in power, Sergei. Like, you're gone.
So despite having 50 days of rations, the French want to save those rations for when they get to Russia. So they start amassing in Germany and then march across Poland. And despite the fact that Poland is ostensibly an ally and in the French Empire at this point, or I guess an ally, they strip the Polish countryside for food.
Oh, that's so shitty.
And the problem with that is that the peasants in Poland famously have typhus, like endemically at this point. It is in the Polish
famously, but I was unaware that the Poles were famous for typhus.
Well,
I was aware of the fact that they couldn't screw in a light bulb, but at this time I didn't think that was too much of a handicap.
Jeez, I'm not gonna pass that one by.
Come on, you just teed that right up for me.
I mean, I think I have some Polish heritage, so we're just gonna leave it. But so the Polish peasants have typhus in them, and at this point, epidemic typhus has a mortality rate of between 30 and 40%, but can reach 100% under the right conditions.
Oh,
those are bad numbers.
It's bad.
I've heard
just doing the numbers in my head here. I'm not a numbers guy, but 100%.
100% seems real bad.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little about typhus as a disease?
Yeah, so typhus is transmitted by lice and fleas.
And those never happen when you have 500,000 men on a long campaign walking into the countryside.
Yeah, not getting showers, sleeping.
Not getting showers or any
ground.
sort of, that never happens, right?
To do a callback to earlier in the episode.
Question?
Oh, sorry, AJ, you go.
Typhus and typhoid fever are not the same thing?
They are different.
Okay.
So this is epidemic typhus. It's also different from scrub typhus, which was a problem in World War II in South Asia theater.
Oh, just don't hang out in the bush. Solve that problem.
This is epidemic typhus.
No, is there also we have scrub typhus? Do we also have forest typhus and plains typhus?
If we want to do scientific names, since that came up earlier, this is Rickettsia prowazekii.
Okay, bacteria or virus?
It's a
Or
bacteria.
I guess viruses don't have names like that.
Well, they do now. They didn't used to, but yes, it is a bacteria vectored by lice and fleas, mostly in humans. And yeah, it's called epidemic typhus because while it can hang out at low levels in the human population, mostly it's known for these epidemic outbreaks where a shit ton of people die. And then it'll kind of go away for a while. And there's some interesting things with like it'll hang out, I think, in your liver. So if you survive it, it's
you need that.
Yeah, it just kind of hangs out. But then if you say get sick or stressed, like if you're a soldier that's on campaign and your immune system takes a hit, it will reactivate. And then all of a sudden there's typhus in your bloodstream again. And if you're bitten by a louse, it could vector it. And so
that's fun.
you have these explosive outbreaks of epidemic typhus, often among militaries.
That's not good.
It's not
you
good.
You don't want your guys just dying just because like they got stressed.
No.
They're not grad students.
So it's actually not typhus that starts to get the Army first. There are some kind of single one-off cases, but it doesn't seem to be a real problem at first. And what does seem to be a problem is dysentery from poor water.
Oh, yeah. That's
that
dysentery, a classic of the a classic of humanity until about like 40 years.
40 years
Yeah.
ago, yeah.
Somewhere between 5 and 20% of the troops become sick with dysentery before they even cross into Russia. Before they get out of Poland, like 1 in 5 is sick with dysentery.
So that is just shit in your pants and trying to walk from Warsaw to Moscow.
Yeah,
You're not gonna make that.
that's awful. So June 23rd.
And also, I would like to hang on. I just want to point out too, like we've got 500,000 people on paper, and 5% is 25,000 men just having their insides leaking out,
Yeah.
and they haven't even crossed the border yet.
They're not even in Russia yet.
Yeah, we're still in ostensibly friendly territory.
Yes.
I'm also thinking about my non-target impacts here. This is not going to be great for the citizenry of Poland afterwards.
No. And
They're probably not pro-Napoleon after this.
no, and actually once the French go into Russia and then retreat back from Russia, there is an epidemic
Oh,
typhus.
spoiler alert.
Yeah. There's an epidemic typhus outbreak in Poland for like 5 or 6 years.
Oh,
They really leave a mark in terms of disease. It's not great.
well,
Yeah,
again,
there's 25,000 guys shitting on the ground. You gotta
Yeah.
assume it's gonna leave a mark.
I mentioned the dysentery afterwards is also going to be crazy because, like was just mentioned, you got 25,000 guys running around with dysentery, pooping in like
Pooping on
every
the road.
resource.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to hold it in, and they're yep.
Okay, so we're in Russia.
So we're in Russia now. June 23rd, they cross the Niemen River. Conditions just get worse. So they're exposed to the elements. It's Russia in summer, so there is extreme heat. Which is punctuated by occasional torrential downpours.
And so we're like hiking across the plains here.
And we're hiking across the plains, and unlike in the rest of Europe, there are no good roads, and so the dirt roads turn to mud roads, and all of the animals and carts that are pulling all of the food that is supposed to supply the army just get bogged down. And while it's hard for the men to march, they quickly outpace the food supply, which is not good. So now you've got guys that are going 2, 3, 4, 5 days without food because they're 30 miles ahead of the food.
And their whole job is walk.
Walk.
They're burning, and they're wearing just wool.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're just burning just so many calories. It's the swamp ass. It's just incalculable swamp ass.
It's also Russia, and so there's a freak cold snap. And
Oh, that's
despite the
nice.
fact that it's almost July, there's a summer snowstorm.
Oh, wow,
Jesus.
that's classic.
And you lose like thousands of horses to an ice storm because they're just left out, and the men are trying to like get under anything they can. And it's almost July, and things just freeze to death.
And so
Okay,
you're
well,
just
losing
you're
thousands of horses is a plus for me. So like that's
I was going to say, though, they're going to reenact the Star Wars scene with the Tauntaun from The Empire Strikes Back and just crawling in there for a little bit, except it's a horse.
Yep. And so you go...
Sorry.
Oh, go on.
I was going to say, sorry, Mike, you don't know this, but this is also an anti-horse podcast.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
No, that we are strong. Don't tell Erica. This is a strongly anti-horse podcast.
Horses are native to Europe, though.
Okay, the wild horse, but this is a domestic species. Sure. So we're anti-horse, not just as a feral species, but also because I don't like horses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they get the weird.
Only humans should have depression. Not what does a horse have to be depressed
You're
about?
going to be pleased.
Oh, I'm so tall and I have so many hooves. Shut up! You're a horse.
You're going to find out real quick.
You're going to be happy because a lot of guys die, but a lot of horses die too.
Oh. At least something positive's coming out of here. I mean, the Haitians win and millions of horses died. Like, this is my episode.
So, the French and their allies march into Russia. The Russians know they can't defeat the French, and despite pressure from the government to, stand and fight, they just start retreating. And it's not a planned thing where, we're going to lead the French into Russia and they're going to die. They just don't have the manpower to stand up, and they don't want to get annihilated. So they abandon the town of Vilna. On the 27th of July, they abandon the town of Vitebsk. So they're basically retreating to a town. We're going to hold it, and then the French show up, and then they leave in the dead of night. And it's at Vitebsk on the 27th, about a month after they cross into Russia, that we get the first notes of typhus recorded by anybody, by a Dutch physician, Joseph Romain Louis de Kerkhoff, in his diary. He kept a journal of his time with the French army, and he noted, quote, "It was also noticed that typhus born spontaneously from dirty clothes became more frequent and serious when they were in Vitebsk." So this is the first time that typhus is starting to be seen.
So it's on dirty clothes. So these guys have been, again, marching for
They've been a month with no clothing change.
At least a month into Russia, not counting the time it took to get there.
Yep.
So, and you said, all right, if you're stressed, it can pop back up. And a month marching for 5 days in hot temperatures, but also freak snowstorms with
it's
just
not great
full
for your
wool.
immune system.
Yeah, so we're not
limited
guys.
food.
Yeah. You had to pillage the Polish countryside to get some food. So you ate a lot of cabbages in Poland, and then after that you're like, we're not eating
what's
much
in Russia?
calories.
Some potatoes and some grain and some wheat fields, maybe.
Yeah.
And
But this part of Russia, not really. This part of Russia is pretty dry.
Yep.
And cabbages are not high in calories.
No, and they strip the surrounding countryside as best they can, but there's just not a lot of food available.
No, this is like steppe. You're in the Ukrainian steppe here.
So by the 1st of September, so they've been marching for 6 weeks, the Russians, due to political pressure, finally stand and fight at the Battle of Borodino. The French crossed into Russia with 600,000 men. 6 weeks later, they have 128,000.
Oh,
so
that's a lot less.
There has barely been a shot fired, and they are down to 1/4 of the men they started with, almost entirely due to disease. Exposure and lack of food, but all of those things feed into each other. If you're hungry, you're more likely to die of disease. If you're suffering from exposure, you're more likely to die of disease.
And if you're diseased, you're more likely to die of exposure.
Yeah, all of it is a feedback loop.
So in the war between the Tsar and Napoleon, typhus coming out the winner.
Yeah.
Pulling out the unexpected dub, got handed to him, undefeated champ, typhus.
So there's 155,000 Russians. They actually outnumber the French. The French win the Battle of Borodino, but it's kind of a Pyrrhic victory. They lose about 20% of their entire force in this battle. The Russians lose 55,000 to their 28,000, but the Russians are in Russia. They can just recruit more. The French cannot, because they're strung out so far with these supply lines. The French take Moscow famously, and then famously burn it down. About 3/4 of the city burns down in the middle of September. Napoleon had planned on quartering over winter in Moscow, but then all of a sudden there's no Moscow left to quarter in. And he waits too long while he's sending the Tsar like, please surrender to me. I have Moscow. It's mine. And the Tsar does not reply to him. And he waits weeks and weeks. And while he's waiting, typhus continues to spread amongst the troops. In one hospital at this time in Moscow, 1,800 of the 1,850 people in that hospital die of typhus.
So 50 guys made it out.
50 of 1,850 make it, and the rest die of typhus.
So, like, that is, like, equivalent to the battle that they fought.
Yeah. And it's... And that's just one
battle.
hospital that we have records from.
I was going to say, and that is one hospital of dozens, probably.
Yeah, this is happening across Moscow. So even as they sit here, ostensibly not fighting, they are dying like flies to typhus. So
that's
typhus is bacterial again, right?
This is bacterial. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just, like, imagining Napoleon here, like, waiting for this letter, and, like, the Tsar's probably like, I hope this letter finds you well. And Napoleon's like, this letter finds me with most of my men having shit their guts out. So, no, it did not find me well. Apologies for the delays, unaccepted.
So Napoleon finally decides to retreat from Moscow. He can't hold the city. It's untenable. He has no supplies. And they start to retreat. And Calvin, to your point, this is the kind of famous part of the retreat from Moscow. The first week or two are okay. It's cold, but not devastatingly. And then the bottom falls out of the temperature. On the 7th of December, it fell to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius. It's to the point where the scale doesn't matter because it's the same.
Oh.
It was...
That's a good place to be.
We actually don't know how cold it was because at that temperature, mercury freezes.
Oh,
Jesus
that's
fucking
You don't want to
Christ.
hear that.
And so it fell to some point below negative 40.
Oh, and that's before the wind chill, right?
Yes. It is...
Which, the wind famously blows a lot on the steppe that you're trying to walk across.
Devastatingly cold. Like, men are just freezing as they sit. And they don't... Their clothes are literally falling off their backs because they've marched to Moscow and back and haven't had a change of clothing. And so these guys, like you see the paintings and read the descriptions, they are just wrapping rags around themselves, trying to stay warm.
Well, the bright side here is I'm looking for the bright side. It's probably freezing the lice off of them.
It's not because they're trying to stay warm. And so they're wrapping all of these clothes on. And you can imagine, as soon as somebody
Just
dies,
layers of lice.
The clothes are pulled off of them by the still living.
They're reusing that stuff immediately.
And so all of the lice just get moved. And so there's this quote from Jakob Walter, who was he's a German now, but he was a Westphalian from Westphalia then.
It's fine. We just call him German. It's fine.
In talking about here's the full quote. When the major, who is a guy he was walking with, one of his majors, had become somewhat warm, his subjects, in quotes, plagued him with unusual wickedness. When I had his collar open, his raw flesh showed forth where the greedy beasts had gnawed at it. The pests, however, were no less to be found on me, thousands of them.
Oh, God.
So, I mean, in a lot of these diaries of the guys that did survive have quotes like this, just talking about how bad the lice were, trying to fan their clothes over the flames to kill the lice, to get them to pop off. Everybody is just covered in lice, and lice are the vectors of typhus, and so everybody is just getting typhus too. Like, they're devastated on the way to Moscow. They lose 80% of their force to typhus. That's the big killer. But even in this retreat, when the cold is killing them, typhus is still killing them by droves.
God.
That's rough
insane.
times, man.
So I'm gonna...
These guys are, like, fleas are not new to them. Like, because these guys
they're soldiers. They've been doing this for a while. They understand it.
Yeah.
Spent their lives, and, like, again, at this time, we don't have, really great ways to control vectors, like control like ticks and lice and stuff like that. Like, lice are basically unknown to modern Americans. Like, these guys are familiar with lice, so for them to be like, I've never seen this many ticks. Like, you spend your life around, like, if you're a cavalryman, horses have lice and ticks and shit like that. And if you're going to spend your whole life on a horse, you're going to get lice and ticks. And these guys are like, I've never seen it like this.
Yeah.
That's an unfathomable density of insects.
Yep. So of the 600,000 people that crossed into Russia, about 20,000 make it back. They lose almost everybody. I don't have
At
numbers.
least nobody died alone, because you had thousands of vectors you died with.
Yeah. Of the horses, almost none of them make it. Tens of thousands of horses die. Like you said, the famous part is the cold, because so many of them just freeze to death on the side of the road. But the big killer in this is typhus on the way to Moscow, and then what few of them remained on the way back from Moscow. So, what happens if 1812 doesn't happen? What happens if there's no typhus, if somehow the French beat Russia? I think there's arguments to be said that even if typhus didn't happen, maybe they don't beat Russia, because you still have things like lack of food and exposure that are killing a lot of men.
Yeah, you just gotta find a
But you don't lose
victory.
25,000 guys before you leave your own territory, or it's
80%
less.
before you reach Moscow.
Yeah, and had they... I think there's a case to be made they could have beaten Russia. Like, maybe they have enough men to go up to St. Petersburg, where the Tsar was, and capture it, or at least encircle it and force capitulation. So, if 1812 doesn't end in disaster, I think there is an argument to be made that the First French Empire does not collapse the way it does in 1814.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if at least they can pull a draw against Russia and they don't lose 500,000 of the most
The
seasoned
best men,
infantry and cavalrymen Europe has to offer, yeah.
And that's
aside from the guys who didn't die
in combat. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, and that's the problem with 1813 and 1814 is Napoleon comes back, he raises new armies, but they are raw recruits. And he still managed to pull off some really impressive victories.
Yeah.
But they're green. And had he had his veteran army, it would have looked different. The other thing is 1813 largely is lost because of lack of cavalry. He has no horses, in no way to counter the British cavalry.
If he goes into the Peninsula War with the vets and with more than just the old guard, his old guard, I don't think that Wellington really wins.
Yeah.
I think that there's a very good chance that Wellington loses and is potentially captured or killed, and then Waterloo doesn't happen. Or if Waterloo does happen, he still has most of his solid core. They break through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty Waterloo is a very near run thing, and that was with Napoleon coming back at the 100 Days.
Well, does Waterloo even happen if 1812 doesn't happen? I don't think you get that battle.
That was my thing. It's he's if he's secure enough in there, he doesn't even go to Elba.
Yeah, there is no 100 days because he never leaves.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well,
we skipped the middleman.
They probably don't the Europeans probably don't come together against France because Napoleon's still here, guys. We're not gonna have another coalition because he's still in charge.
Yeah, and every single coalition is because falls apart because we can't be bothered to keep this together, or it's not successful or something like that,
or we just keep losing to Napoleon.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, we're successful, we can form another coalition, and this time we've got everybody on board. The Austrians have got their head out of their ass, the Prussians are it's a fun counterfactual. But
yeah, well, so say that doesn't happen, let's kind of move forward in time. You get no Bourbon Restoration, maybe you get no Second French Empire, because
but the
French
Bourbon Restoration
Empire
was really funny.
Right, yeah.
It's hilarious.
But maybe you get
Louis the 16th was an idiot. Whichever Louis he was, I can't remember.
Maybe you get no
Seems
Franco-Prussian War, or there's a different outcome. Maybe you get
and
no...
World War One doesn't happen.
Yeah, World War One doesn't happen. World War II doesn't happen. And so it really goes off the rails if 1812 goes differently.
Yeah, if the good guys win, if the Brits don't win at Waterloo, we have probably a better world, maybe, question mark?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be fucked up in a different, more special way.
Yeah.
But
at least the French were better than English, and it was better than the nobility driven. Obviously there's no true egalitarianism, but I think Napoleonic France is much more egalitarian than like Napoleonic England, where you're buying commissions and all that kind of stuff is going on. Like, you don't have the Duke of Wellington in France. Yes, you have Napoleon's
I was going
marshals.
to say you have Napoleon's guys.
Those guys at least have got there because they actually could do things. Like, you can actually be a
except for
regular
maybe
person in
Murat.
advance. Well, okay. Well, Napoleon does have to have his boys. All right, a guy gets to have friends, and also his brother.
I was going to say, but his
idiot
brother's
family.
his idiot like that is a whole other kettle of fish. Is like he's got his whole idiot family that gets placed on various thrones, and they are agents themselves. They can do stuff. Turns out they're shit at doing it, but
Yeah. Speaking of things, people who should have gotten vector-borne diseases, it would have been a lot better if Napoleon's brother had gotten a vector-borne disease.
yeah.
Which brother was it that was on the Dutch throne?
I forget.
God,
Whoever
there's
was in
so
charge
many.
of Spain should have picked up a
Joseph.
disease. Yeah, that's it. Because he just blew the whole campaign over there.
I'm looking it up. Hang on. Napoleon, Wikipedia. There you go.
But not all of the people he installed were bad. Like the guy he put in charge of France, in charge of France. The guy Napoleon put in charge of France, pretty good at being in charge of France, actually.
Himself.
Oh, me? Okay, yeah. The guy he put in charge of Sweden was pretty good at being in charge of Sweden. That was one of his marshals.
Well, he didn't put him in charge. He got elected.
He married in, yeah.
Fun fact, his line is still in charge. They're still the kings.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, so Napoleon, not really a good guy because he didn't fully abolish royalty, but he did a lot more to undermine nobility and royalty in Europe than anyone else did prior to Napoleon. So I do have to hand him that.
So
And if there's one thing I don't like, it's royalty and titles.
all of that to say, there's a huge impact of vector-borne disease on history. I like the Napoleonic Wars because it's easy to point to things. It's so close in history, you can be like, yeah, if 1812 didn't happen, we don't get World War II.
Oh, yeah.
So if you say something like, oh yeah, if there wasn't vector-borne disease in ancient Athens, like you can't run that counterfactual to modern day because things
It's
really
just too
go
far
off.
removed.
It's too far removed. But I like this one because you can play with it in ways that are interesting to an audience that might not even be interested in history otherwise.
Well, hence the episode. And this is nature expressing its will over man. In this case, we're looking at like a lot of bacteria and virus, or a lot of bacteria and mosquitoes. But hey, man, man is part of nature. Nature is part of man. In this case, it is a bunch of dudes dying in fields across Eastern Europe because of some bacteria.
In Haiti and
Yep.
Egypt.
Yep.
So many guys died in we've covered a lot of dead guys this time, but like again, for me the biggest one has been Haiti, just because like it's so far removed from everything. Like I get it, it produced a great portion of income for the French Empire, but like just how many guys, including English, that were fed to that mulcher of disease down there. It's just like that's a lot.
I mean, we're talking 30,000 casualties of Napoleon's troops. Like, that's not to mention, like, your average, like, the immigration to Haiti during that time. Like, really, like, slavery, bad.
Yeah.
Don't do slavery.
It's not worth it, guys. Just
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah. A bold stance, I know, for the pod. Bold
Yeah.
stance, but I'm going to take one for us.
So brave. We're so brave.
Yeah. I know.
Cool. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yay, that's the goal.
Yeah. Mostly just, again, how many people just got fed to the wood chipper in the Napoleonic era?
Yeah.
And the wood chipper being a bacteria and an insect that also has a bacteria in it.
Well, the other thing that I would really love to know more about is the impacts, again, on the civilian population, because we talked about it a little bit with, like, the typhoid outbreaks afterwards, but, like, also, like, the dysentery just has got to be immense afterwards. Like, I know it's already a huge killer at that time period, but, like, you just swell that many guys with dysentery into this landscape, and it's got to get worse.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's really hard to figure all of that out because
Oh, it's impossible, yeah.
unlike the French military where a lot of them are literate and so keeping records, Polish peasants at that point were not. Nobody kept track of it. And so there's just no way to know, aside from a lot.
Yeah. No, it would just be an interesting thing to know. And it would also be, so fascinating episode here, guys. Fascinating episode. All right. Do we have any final takeaways?
Don't invade Haiti. In fact, we should probably pay reparations in some fashion to them. They deserve more than they've been getting. Again, bold stance there. Yeah, and don't go camping with 500,000 of your friends.
Yeah, minor note here, the U.S. has also fucked around a lot in Haiti, so we're just not going to interrogate that. That was not part of the Napoleonic Vector-Borne diseases, which is the theme of this episode. So we're just going to note that and move past it. All right, AJ, any final conclusions?
No, I mean, I think we've covered it. It's just if you're going to go camping, do it with not so many of your homies.
And, have better health practices.
5 to 20, maybe 20 at most. I would say is a good
a decent scout troop.
Yeah, a good sized scout troop, and put the pit toilets where they need to be.
Now, Mike, here's a counterfactual for you. If we give Napoleon a ton, just a metric ton of DEET or permethrin, what do you think that does?
That's interesting. Had they had insect repellents, I don't know if it does a whole lot. It would have helped with yellow fever and mosquitoes. Permethrin on the clothes would have killed lice, so maybe it does. Maybe it does do something.
But at a certain point, the clothes start to fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
Yeah,
it's only good for 30 days ish if you spray it on.
I think it's a bandage of a giant ulcer that's bleeding.
Okay. All right, Mike, any final conclusions for us? This has been a great episode. It's about bedtime here for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a 2-hour episode, so I got to go back to the editing minds.
Yeah. Sorry I kept you so long.
Minutes at this point.
Christ on
I
sale.
hope it's interesting.
It's interesting. I learned a lot. I appreciate it. I hate you for making me edit this. Yeah, exactly.
The last final thought then I'll leave you with. You mentioned camping. And we talked about all of these guys, especially in Russia, just walking, on this march. They didn't carry tents. They are just sleeping rough under the stars in their clothes.
It's so rough.
Which makes it, when it's negative 40 degrees, that much worse because they have no cover. So it's not even camping. It's just sleeping out in the grass in your clothes.
Or, I guess, in Russia, in the snowbank.
In the snowbank.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you with that since camping came up.
I'm not that hard. And I don't think no modern man is that hard to be able to say, I would have survived. No, would not have.
Well, to be fair to the modern man, also, most people in Napoleonic Europe weren't that hard either, as only 20,000 out of 500 made it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
A lot of them famously did not survive.
Okay, my final thoughts here are vector-borne diseases are important. You should wear, anytime you're outside, the proper repellents for diseases. That being DEET. DEET is cool and fine. You will not get problems from DEET. We've been studying it since the 30s. So, and then also, don't do slavery. If you have the option to invade a country, also don't do that. That's not cool. And if you do slavery or invade a country, that you're being a bad guy, like Napoleon, you invade a country to do slavery, you probably do deserve to get yellow fever. So those are my final thoughts.
Cool.
Okay, awesome.
Hang on, we got to do the end notes because I forgot to do it last time. Comment, send emails to seedpod.pod if you've got ideas for episodes, things you want to talk about, that sort of thing.
And make sure to check out Arthropod with a dash in the middle.
Yep. Got to remember the dash or else you won't get there.
And Mike, where can we find Arthropod? On all podcasting platforms?
Arthropod is on all podcasting platforms. We are, I guess I'll plug the show a little bit. We are the longest running entomology themed podcast. We've been going for 10 years now.
Oh, damn.
We're on episode 192.
I just downloaded 188.
180. We've got some in the can.
I'm behind.
But yeah, we try to be bi-monthly. We don't always hit that. We get 23 to 25 episodes a year. We cover all aspects of entomology. So I did a 6-parter on this. If you want to learn even more, it takes 12 hours to listen to. Because they
Jesus
were
Christ.
about 2 hour
That
episodes.
was my
each.
start on Arthropod, to be honest.
That is the longest series we've ever had. Most of them are single shot episodes, and we do scripted things. We do interviews with experts. You can find us on all podcatchers. Our archive on podcatchers is only about 50 episodes, or maybe a little bit less, because we switched how we feed the podcast. So if you want to find our really back catalog, you can go to archive.org.
Cool.
And again, arthro-pod, and that'll find you what you need to find.
Neat. Yeah, and I think next episode, I think we're going to talk about beavers and beaver restoration, I think. So,
That'll be
cool beans.
I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see everybody later. Bye.
Bye.